Good evening and welcome to round 6 of the FSR World Championship here from Silverstone, the British Grand Prix, or the United Kingdom Grand Prix as it's advertised in the server for some reason, and it's going to be a great race this weekend. Myself, Thomas Mundy, commentating, and alongside me again, Chris de Jong. And Chris, it's a very different circuit, a very different challenge for the drivers. Should see some exciting racing today, and also there's some very wide straights for 2 and even 3 wide.
Yeah, I'm confident we will see this excitement today. We already see a lot of exciting moves in the Pro Series, and these guys obviously are stepping up a notch compared to that. So definitely the environment to have a great day of racing. Of course, Silverstone is a great venue for that.
Yeah, certainly is. Interestingly, over the last 3 years, we're in qualifying 1 here, by the way. We have actually had 3 different winners at this circuit. So I don't know if people feel that that's going to happen again this weekend. We've had 3 different winners. They've been Bono Huis, Ivar Kalamies and Atse Kirchhoff in the last 3 years. So maybe you as viewers can tell us, do you think we'll have another one of those today? It's certainly a circuit that throws up different results, Chris. I don't know if you think there's any particular reason behind that.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it has got a nice flow on the track, but I was just about to point out, I believe Atse won his first and I believe only race in Silverstone here a few years ago. So yeah, will we see another different driver take the top step on the podium? Would be nice though. We saw Mikko Swokas claiming his first victory in Pro. So.
Yeah, we might do, because David Greco seems to be on pace at the moment, a 1:31.1 for the Twister Racing driver, currently tops and heads the timesheets in Q1. And once again, Norbert Leitner as well, racing here this weekend for Faster Than Speed, looked very good in the Ace race, finished 4th in Ace yesterday, for those who were following that, and he's up there in 3rd position at the moment, standing in for Patrick de Witt this weekend, who has other commitments, Chris. And Norbert's somebody that we've seen driving very well in the Ace series so far this season, as Morgan Marengo's fastest.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of drivers from the lower categories climbing up to their first race in WC, like Rens Klopp, who had that unfortunate error with or conflict, or I should say, with Patrick de Witt in Imola. But yeah, another new name on the WC entry list, and yeah, I'm just eager to see what his performance will be, and I'm sure he will be the most eager of us all.
I'm sure he certainly will. He's up there in 4th at the moment, so looking good for Q1 with half of the session remaining. We've seen some of the names that may be outside the top 10 at the moment that would be expecting to get themselves in there. Carlos Martin is outside the top 10 but hasn't set a lap yet, so I wouldn't read too much into that. Martin Gosby, though, down in 12th, not put in a particularly good first lap, so he's on a flying lap now. We'll see what his first sector is as he comes through that first sector. I think he's just about to come through it now. Just wait for the time for the first sector. I think it's at the end of this the National Straight. She's just coming down now, and it's 25.4.
25.4, decent, I guess.
Well, it's not bad, but it's certainly slower than some of the cars in front. Norbert Leitner is 25.3 in 4th place. We've seen some strong lap times, but it's certainly slower than some of the guys around him. We're looking at Carlos Martin, who's done a 25.2 in the first sector, which is extremely good. And not the fastest that we've seen, but nevertheless that could be a lap time that could put him very close to his teammate. He's actually faster than Bono Huis, who has gone a couple of hundredths slower than that through the first sector with Carlos Martin. And once again, Bono finds himself in a position where he's a few tenths behind Morgan, and that puts him back with some other drivers, Chris.
Yeah, interesting to see, and I wouldn't mind watching Bono start from, let's say, P12 or something and make his way up to the field. I'd rather see a guy battling like that than anyone driving away with the lead comfortably. And that's what we want to see, and what we are expecting today is it's a lot of great racing. I mean, Silverstone, we have a lot of straights, reasonably fast corner, and another straight again. Perfect circumstances for overtaking here. So really got high expectations from this.
Yeah, it should be a very good race, and Rob van Starkenburg has popped up to 6th position as Bono Huis now goes into 2nd place with a 1:30.993, still a tenth and a half shy of Moran, who has been fantastic this season, it has to be said, and has really shown that all that success that Bono has had over previous years, he hasn't won a race so far this year, and that will be I'm sure that will be on his mind, Chris. It will be there, won't it?
It will be frustrating for him. I mean, he's used to a lot of victories, and now he has to make his way up to the pack once more to claim a victory. He really has to try hard for that. But nevertheless, it's the battle we've been waiting for all these years. I remember 2011 and 12 when Bono would just fly away after turn 1 and would say, well, see you later, I'm not coming back, you know. And the racing has obviously been more exciting this year. And
Well, the other winner that we've had this season, other than Morgan Moran, is Martin Gosby. He was down in 13th place. Let's see this lap, though. I think that's actually an out lap, is it? I think it is, yeah. So he's now on a flying lap, and it'll be interesting to see what he can. Maybe we can stick with Gosby and see how this lap goes, because it really is a surprise that he's down there outside the top 10, and this is going to be his last attempt at getting through. And unfortunately for him, he's got a lot of traffic in Sector 1. The DRS zone here is not one that you can really use. That you'll notice that the drivers open it quite a long way after the DRS zone starts. Because of that corner, it just makes it very difficult. It's a 25.5 first sector from Gosby. That's not particularly good, and it's a good 3/10 down on what Huis and Moran and drivers like that were doing. So this is not great so far from Martin Gosby. Carlos Martin also has failed to set a lap time so far, so he too needs to improve. But not a good opening sector from Gosby, and he's really under pressure here, Chris, the race winner for Imola.
Yeah, this is a supreme performance in Imola, and then you see in just a few weeks' time things can change so much for the good and the worse. Struggling now for a Q2 spot, and every driver has shown to do his homework. I mean, the gaps are just amazingly short to each other.
His second sector is 4/10 off Moran as well. I don't think this is going to be enough, because that's going to put him about 11th on current pace. So Martin Gosby, this is going to be very close. He needs to have an absolutely brilliant last sector, because at the moment he would be in 11th place with the sectors that he's had so far. What does it do for him? It's a 1:31.6. It's not enough.
It is 11th, like you expected. This is really frustrating for him. 1/10 shy of Q2, and Peter Briljak happily on 10th position at the moment, but still on the flyer.
Well, Carlos Martini's coming round the final few corners as well, so let's see if the Netrex driver can get himself in there. Jack Keighley has just jumped up to 10th place for GT Omega, but he could be under pressure here, because Carlos Martin will come round the corner, and that will knock Keighley out again if he's fast enough. Let's have a look at the lap time from Carlos Martin. Is it quick enough? Yes, it is. 7th place for the Netrex driver on a 1:31.397, so that means that Jack Keighley is also out, as is Peter Briljak. So quite a few surprises, and once again, Chris, we're seeing a bit of a shuffle of the grid here, although I think Briljak might still be on a lap.
He might be, and things are still changing. Now Ivar Kellemees, who is sitting in the pit, finds himself in that familiar 10th spot in the Q1 from him this season. I am not sure if people are still on flyers here, as I'm scrolling.
I think Briljac's improving. I think Briljac's improving, Chris, and that could be a threat for Ivar Kellemees, because Kellemees has already missed out on the Q2, I think 3 times this season in the previous 5 races. Is it 3 or 2 times, certainly at least?
Yeah,
and,
if Briljak can keep it together, then I'm sure he will clinch that last spot. Here he comes, only 2 corners to go. Here he comes, last corner, going on to the straight. Will it be enough for him? It is. Yes, it's a 4th place, remarkable 31.2. So that means that Ivar is in 10th place, of in 11th place now, just out of the Q2 once again. Really disappointing for him. Carlos Martin on 10th is the last guy who is able to join Q2, I believe, because all drivers are in the pit.
Yeah, Marcel van der Linden just approved to 16th there at the end, so the top 10 has been decided, and for the 3rd time this season, Ivar Kellemees is not in it. And his qualifying performances still leave a lot to be desired, Chris. We know he's very fast in the race, but for whatever reason, he cannot hook it up in qualifying this season.
No, but who has hooked it up is Norbert Leitner with an astonishing 5th place, 31.294. Is definitely up the pack there, challenging the Twister racing cars, and finds himself in between. Now it's all about that one lap. Who can put the best lap together? You only have one opportunity. You go out and you mess up everything like Rens Club figured out earlier this day. So let's see who can keep standing up under this pressure.
Yeah, it's certainly, it's going to be interesting is this qualifying session. Norbert Leitner, very bold actually. He only did one run in Q1 and then just sat in the pits for the rest of the time. So that was an excellent lap by him, and he didn't even need to go out again. So just shows the confidence that he had. Yeah.
Well, always room to do a Q2 lap already, I guess. But,
I've seen that in the past, not so much recently, Chris, but yeah, it was certainly something that I know a lot of drivers adopted in past years, where if they felt they'd done enough in Q1, then they'd just try the Q2 setup and maybe get a few extra laps in practice on that before they just get their rhythm before going into Q2 itself. Especially now that we only have one flying lap as well in Q2, so you don't really get a couple of sighter laps, whereas of course they can do that if they do that in Q1 first, if they feel they're already through.
Indeed. So now we start the Q2 dance, as it's called. Carlos Martin is heading out first as the 10th driver. Morgan Morant will end the Q2 because he was the fastest in Q1. Carlos Martin now has scored a podium in that almost hilarious Canada Grand Prix where everything. Where the spectacle was just complete. He scored a podium starting from 22nd position there, or 24th, either one of the two. But the amount of drivers that retired that race was just immense. And let's see and hope, especially that more drivers will finish this race than last race. But Canada surely lived up to its name.
So, Chris, do you want to take us through Carlos?
I just wanted to give you the honors, but never mind, I'll do them then. So Carlos Martin going on to his first and only flyer in this Q2 session, picks up a lot of pace into the first few corners now here, onto the braking, hard braking there, brake disc blowing all around, and finds himself a good entry spot. And especially important into this corner, because if you lose out on the exit, you will just get a multiplied loss down the straight. 25.280. That's a really nice first sector, considering it's a Q2 setup. And, Carlos Martin eager to show us all what he can do. Still a young driver, still learning each time he's out on track, and he's one of the guys that's really showing promising future in FSR. But he goes wide there, but still keeps the lap clean, really on the maximum limits there. Goes to Maggots and Beckett's. Really charging at the corners. Phenomenal driving here from Carlos. Now open that DRS flap on the hanger straight. And let's see where his top speed lies. It's a staggering 317 kilometers. That's really fast. So now in the middle of sector 3, only 2 corners to go. Nice and tidy. A little bit twitchy there on the exit, but a reasonably quick lap here from Carlos. A 31.157, tremendous.
Really it's actually nice. Faster than he went in Q1.
Really nice.
So that's a great lap by Carlos, and I think that's going to be difficult to beat. So he's really laid down a marker there, and I think you said it in the final sector, Chris. It was just very tidy, and that's what kept the lap. Sometimes that is the fastest way to get around a track. It often is, in fact. Anyway, Ville Lepela now goes on to his flying lap for the Aventa SimRacing team, a team that he joined midway through the season. He will be racing with them until the end of the year now. It's looking pretty good through the first few corners. I've noticed the cars look very stable here this week, and nobody seems to be struggling for grip particularly, which is odd at Silverstone because we normally see quite a lot of moving around, especially with the Maggots and Beckett's complex. Where we expect so much movement. 25.3 then in the first sector for Lepela, so already a 10th down then on Martin through that first sector. This weekend the lap times in Q2 will not be far away from Q1 because they're only really running a 1 radiator setting higher, most teams, from what I gather, in the actual race, because it's really not too hard on engines and brakes here. So that's probably something that we'll see from all of the the cars that they won't be too far away from what they managed to achieve in Q1. It's a wonderful section, this, isn't it? The Maggots and Beckett's complex, and then down the hanger straight as Lepela gets out onto the main straight. It's a 39.3 through the second sector, I think, which is not too bad. But is looking as we go through this final sector, can he make up time on Carlos? I don't think he'll be able to. A little bit out of shape there, out of stow, but it's still looking okay, this for Lepela. He's not had any too major mistakes. See as he exits the final corner, very important to get a good run out of this final corner, and he does, and it's away down the straight. And what's the lap time? It's a 1:31.447, so about 3/10 away from Carlos, but I don't think that will be the slowest lap time in Q2, but we will see.
No, but definitely shows how fast Carlos was going, and the commitment was clearly visible. We feel Lepela is, should be all right with a 31.4. It's a great time, even compared with his Q1 lap. So I think he would be satisfied. Now it's Rob van Starkenburg its turn to get some satisfying on his part, because Rob is one of those drivers who wants to show us all that he can win a race here, and he almost scored it in China, I believe. Nevertheless, he's coming up to the first sector, doing a 25.5, so he's already down 3/10 of Carlos Martin here. Let's see if he can make up for it. Maybe he has that higher top speed setting, which he lost out on the first sector, and it's compromising in sector 2. But at the moment he's 3/10 down. Does carry a lot of speed through here. Really stable driving here from the GT Omega driver. Nice commitment, nice controlment here through the Maggots and Beckett's part. Now let's see, Carlos Martin had a top speed of 317, Rob van Starkenburg will not match that, he has 315. So let's see what he can make of this of this lap. At the moment we'll be aiming for the third spot, and it's a 1:31.439, so it gets him into second place. Barely jumps Ville Lepela, but presence is enough. Some reasonable good job from Rob. He lost 3/10 in the early stage of this lap, and in the other two sectors he didn't lose anything, so he compromised.
Yeah, it was very surprising that actually though, because as you mentioned, Chris, he had a lower top speed, which suggested he had a higher downforce setting, but it was in those corner sections that he was losing time, so very strange there. But Dejan Kostadinov is on his lap for Aventus SimRacing. Ville Lepela has already done his lap, his teammate. Let's see what Dejan is through the first sector. It's a 25.4, so it's a couple of tenths away from what Carlos Martin did in that first sector, but Kostadinov getting through the first section reasonably comfortably, and now heads through Woodcote and down towards the world famous corner that we see here. It is wonderful watching them through here. Let's watch them through Copse. Here we go. It's amazing. They just go flat out pretty much through there.
Yeah.
It really is a test of your grit and determination and your bravery through there. And same here as well, Chris, in this section of the Luffields and Beckett.
Yeah, but I think it's really unfortunate that Copse hasn't been the first corner again. You know, I loved starting a race from there.
Yeah, it has changed a little bit over the years, Silverstone, but it really is. We have got some quite nice corners though in the new section with Aintree and Farm Corner that have been added. They're not bad corners. Farm Corner particularly actually is quite similar to Copse in that you go flat out through it most of the time. Let's see what Kostadinov goes through in this final sector then. Let's have a look. It's going to be a 1:31.3, I think, 1:31.5, so not as fast as I was expecting. So he lost a bit in that final sector, so he goes fourth, and Carlos Martin's lap is looking brilliant at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the first sector alone, 25.281, it's really up there, and it's Jim Paris's turn of the Twister Racing Black car to get under those sector times. Jim Paris, of course, did win a race here already in the Car Factor Winter Series, so he's familiar with this track. Let's see if his experience here can pay some dividend. So it's coming onto the straight now. has some nice top speed, but he loses 2/10 compared to Martin with a 25.4. So already 2/10 down onto Carlos. Takes a wide line through here. Really nice exit. I think Carlos Martin lost a little bit of time on Kops on the exit of it. Maybe that's a room where Jim Paresis can improve. He's certainly carrying a lot of speed through there. And he can also improve on the last corner where Carlos Martin had a little bit of a moment there. Wow, the commitment of Jim through Maggots and Beckets is really amazing. Certainly aware of any limitation of the car and working with that to create the optimum effect. It's now only sector 3 to go for him. Will he get provisional pole position? So here comes Jim Paresis. Finds himself in a compromising line there. Wouldn't hurt his lap time too much, but is it enough? It's not. It's 31.200, so 42 thousandths of a second shy of Carlos Martin. I think he might have lost it in the last few corners.
Yeah, quite possibly, Chris. It's interesting that the first lap we've seen is still the fastest one that we've seen.
Yeah.
And there have now been 5 drivers
that
that have gone. Not very often at all, because of course the track rubbers in as the session goes on. Not by a huge amount, but nevertheless, it's not normal to see the first lap being the quickest at this stage. But Norbert Leitner is now out, and he's been a really good surprise in this session so far. He did very good in the first session, a 25.3 through the first sector, so that's pretty good. And we know that most drivers have been catching Carlos Martin over the rest of the lap, because he did a 25.2 first sector, which in most part drivers have been about 3/10 slower than that, but then closed down as the lap's gone on. So if Leitner can keep this lap going, he might be able to challenge Carlos Martin at the top of the leaderboard. Let's see how it goes. He was certainly flat through Kops. That was really good.
Yeah, I was about to say his commitment. It's certainly not the case of any commitment here. He's flying through the corners. He got caught out a bit. I think he will lose some time here.
Well, he's certainly the fastest Hungarian I've ever seen. He's a little bit faster than Baumgartner, isn't he, in terms of Hungarian drivers? I think it has to be said. So Norbert Leitner comes through Stowe then, and towards this end section, just run slightly over the curb on the exit there, which he does, not too much actually though, which just shows the grip that he's got in this car. And through the final section of the track, can he get to the head of the field? It's going to be tight.
Yeah, it's going to be tight indeed.
It's a 31.7.
Wow!
That was nowhere near as fast as I was expecting.
Well, he definitely lost it in the last sector there. I mean, he did in the middle sector then. I mean, it's amazing. It looked so sharp, but he lost half a second through sector 2. So that's really unfortunate for him.
And there were no obvious areas where he lost that either, Chris. It didn't look like he made a mistake. So just surprisingly, maybe.
He seemed a bit twitchy and he lost something, but it's quite a large gap. Either way, it's now the turn of Peter Briljak, familiar face in FSR for us all, champion of the World Series last year, if I'm not mistaken. Eager now to show us what he hasn't lost it all. First sector, he does a 25.393. So that's more than a 10th down on Carlos. He certainly has to step up a bit. And here we go to Kop. Oh, it's so beautiful, Mundy. Will he lift? No, he won't. It's steady entries here. This is where he will win time for sure. He's right on the limit. Now the top speed, what will his top speed be? Will he reach 317 an hour? 316 it is. So this is going to be really close.
I think this is going to be slower. He's 3/10 down in the second sector as well though, Chris, so that's...
Ooh, and he gets a twitch of oversteer there that's compromising everything right now. And it's a 31.5. Those two mistakes cost him so dearly. Although for a driver there's never something like a perfect lap. But no, this was certainly not even close to that.
Yeah, and Carlos Martin is still there with only 3 drivers left to go. The first lap that we saw is still the fastest after 7 runners. David Greco then, really excellent Q1 where he was 3rd fastest. He has looked pretty sharp around here. It's a track that Greco has gone well at in the past, so we know that he's quick around here, and the first sector here is going to be interesting. You notice that they take a wide entry into Aintree, which is quite common because it's one of those corners where a wide entry actually gets you a much better exit. Well, look at the first sector, it's 25.4, so he's 2 tenths down on Martin already, and once again, a driver is not able to go as fast as Carlos Martin, and it just shows how good that lap was from Martin that we've already seen.
It looked faster though, the first sector of David Greco. I thought he would do a 0.2, but it was 0.4 or 5 or something.
Yeah, so he was going to have full commitment through Copse. And I think there may have been a slight lift there. It wasn't quite flat out. He lost a few kilometers an hour, and that could cost him.
Well, definitely some RPM, that's for sure.
And as he goes a little bit out of shape there, he's off the track. That's not going to be good, and it's going to lose him time. It's 39.2 still. It's still, I think that actually matches Carlos. I'm not quite sure how he's done that going over the curve, but I think he will have lost momentum down the Hanger Straight, even though maybe it didn't affect him in that sector, because of course the sector split time is at the beginning of that straight, so the momentum wouldn't have cost him too much, but it would maybe cost him down the rest of the straight. So we'll see what the lap time is as he comes to the end here. I've got a feeling this is going to be about 3rd, but let's see where he can go. It's a 1:31.3 and it is 3rd.
Oh, brilliant driving from David there. I thought in the middle of the lap that he knew he made a mistake and he was trying to make up for it. Well, nevertheless, he finds himself 3rd, and it's a great opportunity for him to start the race from and get a good result in. Who is looking for the best result possible today, I'm sure, is Bono Huis, who's just starting his lap. And will he feel tension? Do you think he feels tension at this moment, Thomas, to claim a pole position once more?
I don't think Bono's ever felt tension in his life, has he?
I don't know him that well, but yeah, certainly a cool driver and doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Is slower though than Carlos Martin with a 25.3, but I don't think Bono has scored a pole position this year, has he?
No, he hasn't, which it will be another thing that's on his own. He's not had a pole position, he's not had a win either, so neither of them have gone to Bono so far, Chris.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for him. Through Copse, also a bit compromising. It sounded, at least, according to the engine, doesn't lift a single bit through here. And wow, look at that grip through that corner. This is where he wins a lot of time, I'm sure of it. 39.0, but it will affect his top speed. Nope, does reach 317 kilometers, so the precision car has got the right setup and in the bag. Let's see here, final and last corner coming up. And Bono is not being catched out by this corner, so let's see, it's a 131.0. That's an awesome lap. So he was down in sector 1, gets a better sector 2 and 3, and wins it on that. So he has got a nice top speed, but he also has really high grip. So
yeah, so here goes Morgan Moran then, the only man who can keep pole position from Bono Huis, and Morgan generally does keep pole position from people. I think he's had every single one this season so far, so let's see how he can do here in qualifying. Let's have a look at the first sector. This could be crucial because the Netrex car of Carlos Martin was faster in the first sector, and that could help Bono Morgan, because that was where Bono wasn't quite so fast, and it is a 25.1, so he's already 2 tenths up on Bono Huis, but he may lose time over the rest of the lap because we saw that Bono caught up with Carlos as the lap went on. So it may be that the Netrex car is particularly fast through that first sector, but the crucial thing is that Morgan was a tenth faster than Martin through that first sector, so that should help him as the lap goes on, and he's absolutely, well, again, there was a little bit of a lift and he runs slightly wide over the curb.
Yeah, but he carried more speed.
He did carry more speed than Bono, so that is interesting. Tried to go in at higher top speed, Looks pretty good through there, just clips the curve nicely on exit, and it's 39.0 in Sector 2, which matches Bono, which means he's still 2 tenths ahead. This is looking like yet another pole position for Morgan Moran to keep up his 100% record of pole positions. Of course, doesn't have a 100% record of wins anymore, but he would like to keep the pole position record up, I'm sure. Really attacks that curb, even went over the high bit there, and through the final corner. Is this going to be pole position? You bet it is. 130.918.
The only person into the 130s, and he's showing, well, tremendous commitment here. 130.9, and Bono instantly congratulates him with a great lap, and wow, just wow. But we have to say there's only 3 tenths between the first 4 drivers. So we got a nice battle coming on with Morgan, Bono, Carlos, and Paresis.
Yeah, the thing is though, Chris, how much of a psychological battle do you think is going on between Moran and Huis here? Because Huis is coming to these race weekends, and every single weekend he's finding himself, no matter how much he practices, to be behind Moran every single week, no matter how much he practices. How much does that play on the mind of a driver?
Well, I think Morgan and Bono have had some battles in the past, so they know each other battling on track, and I think they are confident on each other, that they will not do, how do you say it, particularly bad moves or anything dirty. Both are really up to the edge. So I think they're just completely focused on the battling part, and well, it's important to have faith in the other driver, that he will give you the room that's required to make the corner, and you know, those drivers will certainly not feel the pressure that much. I think who is feeling the pressure now is Carlos Martin, because in front of him are the 2 best drivers in Formula Sim racing at this moment, and from the last few years. So he's now suddenly up there, you know, and starting from grid slot 3, and he might feel the pressure, but I don't know.
Well, I don't want to worry Precision fans, but Morgan Moran, apparently, we've been told by our cameraman, was hitting the limiter in Q2, which means that he set the car up, generally means that he set the car up very much for the race, which, if you consider that, because that would affect you in qualifying, wouldn't it, normally being hitting the limiter, because you can normally reach a higher top speed in qualifying than you can in the race, Chris. So for him to be hitting the limiter in qualifying means that he set it up more for the race, and he still managed to get pole position.
Yeah, well, maybe he got the slide better setup. I think Bono has a better traction into sector 2 and sector 3. But yeah, on top speed and acceleration, it's really important, especially on this circuit when you're in the dirty air. You want to have that good exit and acceleration too, in order to even get into a window of making a move, you know. And well, let's see how it develops.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Of course, if you're on the YouTube chat and you're watching us on YouTube, hi. And secondly, be prepared to use the hashtag AskCommentator. We've had to use that in the past, and we're more than happy to use that again, particularly during this warm-up session while drivers are getting used to their race setups. Maybe myself and Chris, the so-called experts. We always say experts in inverted commas to myself and Chris, but we'll try and answer some questions for you as best we can. Chris will get his encyclopedia out.
Yeah.
So with regard to the race today then, Chris, I mean, we've seen, as I mentioned earlier, 3 different drivers winning this race in past years. And here's the key thing for you that may help you decide this. This might be something you can answer on the YouTube chat as well. I'm going to ask for Chris's opinion, but will we see another different winner today, do you think, in Silverstone? I'm not going to tell you who the drivers are, though. You don't get that have won it. You don't get that privilege.
Well, Atse Kerkhoff isn't racing, so he won't be defending any win. But no, I think it would be great if Paresis or Carlos Martin or anyone, or even Greco would climb up and take the top spot. I mean, Greco is a nice guy who would deserve it, in my opinion. So, but it's all about to do with the race pace and the incidental things that do happen during racing, and that's possibly contact, and everything could go wrong. You just need that one moment that can decide anything, and well, let's just see. Any driver can drive their stints as they want to, but I'm really curious to see who of the top qualifying guys manages to step on to that qualify pace and keep that pace into the race. We see that Morant has a nice race setup, so he definitely done his homework. I don't think Bono will be compromising a bit on that as well. So yeah, it would be really nice to see all these laps filled with a battle between Morgan and Bono. Would be legendary.
It certainly would. The reason I didn't tell you who the previous winners were over the last 3 years is because Morgan wasn't one of them. So we could well see the fourth different winner in 4 years. The previous winners in the last 3 years, last year it was Ivar Calames, the year before that it was Bono Huys, and the year before that it was Atsay Kirchhoff. So Morgan Moran has not won round here. So that might help you with your answer if you're on the YouTube chat as to whether we'll have a fourth different winner at Silverstone in 4 years this season. Maybe we will see. If Morgan wins, that will be the fourth different winner in 4 seasons at this track, which just goes to show that Silverstone is one of those tracks where you don't really have. We haven't really got a Silverstone specialist, have we, in FSR? There's certain.
No, for sure. Although he is close to a specialist, I think, is Bono. There's a YouTube video that that you can see his entire onboard of the, I believe, 2011 race or 12 it was. Anyway, he had to start on the back of the grid and he finished second with only a few seconds to spare between him and the leader. So he definitely knows every corner on this track like the back of his hand, and well, let's see.
I'll tell you who I will watch out for during this race, Chris, because normally I don't pay much attention to warm-up times because you don't know what fuel.
Yeah, Gosby is up there, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that because Martin Gosby, not only is he fastest, he's on the hard tyre on the on the heavy fuel. So, regardless of what fuel he's running, that's good.
Yeah, that's really good.
So we'll watch out for him. Don't forget, he starts. I think, does he not start 12th, 13th, something like? I don't think he made. I can't remember. Oh, did Gosby make the top 10? I can't remember now. It's all a blur.
Well, you're starting to make me doubt now, but I believe he did. But nevertheless, it's if he is starting from out of the top 10, it's really hard to gain places here because you have the high-speed corners. The effect of downforce that comes into play is also really high. If your downforce gets compromised because you're within a few tenths of a driver and you have a lot of dirty air in the front, then you have to lift immensely hard in order to still make the corner because the downforce just isn't there. Some drivers are looking that they are following quite easily, but they're constantly waiting for that moment that you will not release the acceleration pedal again, because it's just not underestimatable that the dirty air that comes into play here.
Yeah, so I'm just frantically scrambling through my notes, and Martin Gosby qualified 13th. So I should have trusted my instincts on that. He was outside the top 10. But having said that, with a pace like that on the harder tyre, he may well make up a few places. It's unlikely that he's going to win from there. That's the only problem. Although Silverstone is not too difficult to overtake on. There are a lot of overtaking opportunities around here.
Yes, there are, and we got a lot of straights where in the corner and it's straight again in order to get the move stick. So plenty of room here. It's definitely no Monaco. So.
And of course, I think Ren's Klopp earlier today came through having not set a lap time in Q2. Am I right in saying to finish second? And but for a slight problem, you were there, Chris, so you should know. But for a slight problem, would probably have won the race. And I think he didn't set a time in Q2, so it does show you can overtake here. I was sort of half watching. I was out for the early part of the race.
To set a lap time, but he spun off. So it was his own mistake to have not qualified any higher. But he did got a drive-through penalty after lap 1 for, as his own words were, blue flags. on lap 1, really weird. But nevertheless, he finished literally 1 second, within a second behind the leader. So it's definitely possible. But of course, these drivers are all from top level, and they each know what they're doing. I mean, between Jack Keithley on 7th place, who just jumped to 8th, and 12th place Norbert Leitner, there's only a 4/10 gap. You know, almost the entire top 10 is within half a second of each other.
Somebody invite a friend. We've got 99 viewers. I want the 3 figures. Hey, there we go, 101. Just the commentary, by the way, is a little bit delayed. You're a few seconds behind us, so in case you think that I'm a bit slow, it's not that. It's just that you are a few seconds behind us when you actually get your pictures, and now dropped back down to 98 again. So make sure you invite your friends again. We want to get. It's impressive that we're getting that many views. So it just shows how FSR is important. Not all of you are swanning off to watch the football.
No, indeed, and it's always nice to have some racing next to it. And especially with guys like this. I mean, wouldn't miss it for the world, but particularly not a big football fan here. Nevertheless, the other major event is about to start here, and that is the World Championship Grand Prix on Silverstone. I'm really happy to say that.
It's not the other major event, it's the major event. It's far more important, as you well know, Chris.
Yeah, indeed. But Morgan Moran pole position, Bonnehuis in third, in second, and I think those guys will only look on each other this entire race. Right
then, so we'll keep an eye on the drivers. Daniel Brewer as well, interestingly, in 11th there in warm-up. I forgot to mention him. The Avid Chronic Racing Team driver is making his debut in the World Championship today, and the Falcon has landed. That's a terrible pun, but Adrian Falcon as well is driving for Ash Racing today, and he's 8th fastest in the warm-up, so that's encouraging for him as well.
Yeah, definitely. And as a new driver to WC, you're always looking for that moment where you can show your skills off and get that result in.
So then, 52 laps we have got, and we are just about to get ready to go out on the formation lap. 24 cars on the grid, and plenty of action, I'm sure, ahead of us over the next hour and a half or so. So, what predictions do you think have you got for this race then, Chris? What do you think we'll see?
Well, I think we will see a lot of action. I mean, Bono is finding himself back on the front row, and maybe eager to jump Morgan in front of him and hopefully drive away from him. But seeing the race pace of Morgan, that's going to be a very tricky thing to do even as Bono Huis. But I think we will see a lot of action. The middle of the pack, starting from Van Starkenburg to Kallemees and Keithley, and even Gosby are so close to each other. And it will just be a matter of time before we see some epic battles being fought out.
Yeah, certainly will. So let's give you a rundown then of the grid for today's Grand Prix. Morgan Moran starts on pole for Crown 7 Netrex. Bono Huis is alongside him. Netrex having a very strong weekend this weekend with Carlos Martin in 3rd place on the race this weekend. So impressive lap by him, and that means that Netrex have got a real chance to get some great points for the Constructors' Championship. Parisis is 4th. The Twister Racing Black, with David Greco starting 5th for the Twister Racing team, and he has looked fast this weekend. Don't think that Q2 time was as fast as he could have gone, so watch out for him. Rob van Starkenburg starts 6th, Ville Lepela and Dianko Stadanov, the 2 Aventa SimRacing boys, locking out the 4th row. Peter Burliak starts 9th, the Twister Racing team, with Norbert Leitner starting 10th. He did muck up his lap a little bit in Q2, but he is very fast, and he was 5th in Q1, so again could be somebody to watch out for from that 10th spot. Ivar Kallemees starts 11th once again out of Q2, and he won't be happy about that. He's only got a 50% record this season of getting through into the final part of qualifying. Keithley starts 12th, with Martin Gosby 13th. Wouldn't expect to be that low. Daniel Brewer on his debut, an impressive 14th. Adrian Rodriguez starts 15th, with Marcel van der Linden 16th. Eros Mashuli for Go Speed starts 17th, and Zuhats Cabo in 18th place. Fabrizio Gobbi and Matt Sentel are on the 10th row. Dino Paolini and Blair Disley on the 11th row, and Robert Rudholm and Adrian Falcon are at the back of the grid and starting from 23rd and 24th spots. So they're coming around to the grid, and not seeing a lot of tyre warming here, Chris. Maybe that's because of the high-speed corners. It really does put a lot of stress on the tyres. You don't want to overstress them too early.
No, indeed. I think most drivers are just looking for their brake temperatures to get into that 300-400 degrees area. So they will have no, as Jeremy Clarkson would like to say, milk bottom tops as brakes. So the grid is lining up, and Morgan Morant is waiting anxiously for all drivers to take up their grid position. So the lights are coming on just to go off. Take us through it, Thomas.
Here we go, then you can see the gantry very well. We're going to see the 5 lights go on and then go out. Who reacts quickest? It's away, and Morgan Moran seems to have got a very good start, as does Carlos Martin. Can he get down on Bono Huis? Morgan Moran leads into the first corner. There's a bit of action going on behind, a few side-by-side bits, but I think everybody's got cleanly through the first corner, and that's impressive. There's a few drivers dropping back. But I don't think anyone has spun out as yet, which is great to see. It just shows perhaps how good it is to have a wide track occasionally. But here we go, Jack Keithley actually is dropping down the order, so I think he may have spun. But otherwise, Morgan Moran gets through the first sector pretty nicely. There's a car off in the background. It's one of the Aventa SimRacing boys, I think.
Ivar Kellemees made contact with Wheeler left line, pushed him off the track. A little bit cheeky of Ivar, but nevertheless, he made that position and moved stick. So he's now in 8th position already.
Well, Jack Keithley went all the way back to 24th. He's already made up 3 positions again, so he's back up to 21st. But nevertheless, it wasn't a great first lap for Keithley, so he's way down in 21st place. Morgan Moran, meanwhile, is at the front. We can see the marshal very nicely waving the green flag there as Morgan Moran goes through the Magnets and Beckett section. Morgan Moran and Bono Huis is staying with him quite nicely at the moment. Carlos Martin there in 3rd, under pressure from Jim Paresis as they come down the straight, but Martin gets a very good exit onto the hangar straight. In actual fact, that's put him in the slipstream of Huis quite nicely as they come down the straight. We've got Adrian Rodriguez dropping backwards. I think he's spun through Maggots and Beckett. No, he hasn't. He's just gone off the timing screens. He's okay. He's still ahead of Van der Linden, I think. So
but Norbert Leitner did take Martin Gosby on the back of Hangar straight and made the move stick, so he's now in 12th position. Norbert Leitner lost 3 places, made up for 1 of them now, so finds himself into 12th spot with Adrian Rodriguez in front of him.
Yeah, and interestingly, Bono Huis is staying with Morgan Moran. Moran, every race this season mainly, has managed to get out of the DRS zone early. He's not doing that this time around, so Huis may have the opportunity here today, and he knows he needs to make up points in the championship now, especially after everything that's been happening so far this season. He knows he needs to make up points, and quickly, because they will be running out of rounds otherwise. As we look at, there's a few movements going on down the order as Adrian Rodriguez is dropping down the order again. I suspect that's probably to do with his timing equipment not working on his car for some reason, the timing beam. So anyway, Moran still leads, but Huis is right behind him, and this is going to be very, very close the way things are going. Bono Huis is... where's Carlos Martin gone?
Carlos Martin might have a disconnect. Oh no, he's back on track. Good.
Thank goodness for that, and he's disappeared again.
He's disappeared again indeed.
I really hope it's just a small glitch.
I really hope so too, but...
I suspect not though, because he hasn't reappeared, and that is a real shame if that's going to be the case for Carlos. I really hope he does reappear, but normally when you've been disappeared for about 25 seconds, you're probably not going to know, and he's out. He's out. That's really disappointing. So, well, Bono had it out last time, and you do say that things even themselves out over the year, don't they? But I don't know if that really is true, but Carlos' turn this time round to have a disconnect, so that's really unfortunate, especially given that he was having such a strong weekend after the way things had been going. You know, it was his strongest weekend by far, Chris.
Yeah, definitely, and this is definitely not what he deserved, but, well, do feel to say that I rather have it happening in the first lap than in the last corner when he is 3rd. But nevertheless, it's really annoying and frustrating. But yeah, Jim Paresis now finds himself into third spot, which is basically given to him. Nevertheless, if he makes his pace stick, he might be able to catch up with the guys in front. But the guys in front are currently moving away from him, and well, they are just in a league of their own. And Bono, even into the dirty air, is not lifting a bit for Morgan. He doesn't want him to disappear, even in lap 3 when he gets the DRS effect.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that it wasn't a server connection problem with Carlos Martin, because apparently he dropped from TeamSpeak as well, they're saying. So chances are it was an internet connection failure, as Dianka Stadanov has just lost a couple of places. He has been off, I think, in the Maggots and Beckett section, which is such a difficult section, and through the last part I think Dianka Stadanov lost the car. Yes, he did, and he had a half spin and he's lost places down to 13. So he's lost about 5 positions there.
Yeah, he has.
Martin Gosby and Norbert Leitner are going side by side. Leitner gets out of shape. And I think he's going to get overtaken by Kostadanov as well, is he? No, he's not. He's held on to it. So, Leitner, I tell you what, Leitner is going like lightning, because he's having a lot of moments, but when he's got that car balanced, he is driving very, very quickly indeed, and he pulled away from Dianka Stadanov again very, very quickly. But Marcel van der Linden's had a good race, because he started in about 16th place, and you can see now he's all over the back of Adrian Rodriguez. Bono Huis, by the way, will now have DRS, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, well, he did already open DRS last time around. I saw on the straight, hanger straight, so...
Oh, I'm sorry, Van der Linden and Rodriguez have come together. It was a brief bit of contact, amazingly. I don't think either of them have sustained damage, but it was quite a hefty coming together. But Van der Linden is up the inside into Cox. Rodriguez keeps it round the outside, but he runs wide. And he was off the track. Surely he has to give that position up. All 4 wheels were definitely off the circuit there.
Definitely.
Well, he's not giving it up, so...
No, but on his term, he would probably say, Marcel forced me off. But, yeah, that would be typical driver talk. Nevertheless, going back to the front, Bono is making life hard for Morgan, because Morgan is struggling to keep him behind.
Yeah, we've lost Robert Rudholm as well with a suspension damage. Unfortunately, he's now out of the race, as Norbert Leitner has now been overtaken by... I think he's been overtaken by Dianka Stadanov. Van der Linden has been overtaken by Gosby as well, who got past him when Van der Linden got out of shape. Van der Linden's gone straight on at turn 1, and I think he may have suspension damage. I suspect that's from the contact with Rodriguez. Yeah, Van der Linden is out of the race for faster than speed. That's such a shame. So we have already lost 3 cars, and Rodriguez got out of shape out of the Luffield corner, I think, and hit Van der Linden, and I suspect that is the cause of Van der Linden's retirement.
And Gosby is now taking a look on the FSR car of Adrian Rodriguez, and both of them touch! So Martin Gosby spins and almost collects the Norbert Leitner car, the FTS car of Norbert Leitner here. If we can see a replay of Martin Gosby right this second, he was behind Adrian Rodriguez, pulled out of the slipstream, tried to make the move stick, and Adrian Rodriguez, yeah, he might have...
Well, he turned in on him. It's simple as that.
Yeah, he did turn in on him a bit and compromised Martin, I believe. But...
Well, I have to say, I'm gonna have a moment like you had earlier. I don't think Adrian Rodriguez should be allowed to race in World Championship the way he's racing today, because he's hit 3 drivers in 3 laps, and that is clearly not acceptable.
No, it's not, and it's just to hope that Martin Gosby is not having sustained major damage from that, let alone a puncture, but that will not be the case because he is lifting around a bit. Does drive a little bit twitchy now, so really the place he wants to be.
Sorry to do it, Chris. Bono Huis has gone straight on at turn 1 and gone off the track slightly, and he's lost quite a bit of time. He got it down to 3/10 with Morgan Moran, but I suspect when they go through the first sector, it's going to be quite a bit more than that, because he ran wide at turn 1. It was only ever so slight, but I suspect it will have caused some problems. He's still in the DRS, it shouldn't be too bad. He's lost 7/10 though.
You saw the bottom of the car hitting the curbs, you know, and he knew there wasn't any grip at that moment. He certainly had to lift, and easily cost him half a second. Still got the DRS and isn't letting go of the round, that's for sure. But it shows that Bono is really trying. He's really trying to get up to Morant, and both drivers are really in a struggle of their own. And respectively, Jim Paresis is still following them with only 2 seconds to spare.
Yeah, it certainly is. Morgan Moran then out in front. We're just looking down. Fabrizio Gobbi has not had a great race for Venus Projects. He's already a lap down. And we're only 5 laps into this race, so I can only assume that he's had some contact at some point and had to come into the pit lane. But looking down, Peter Berliak's in 6th place. He's having a decent run and getting up the field. Ivo Calames is 7th, as per usual, having to make up for a bad qualifying, but he's always very fast in the race. There's no doubting his race pace, that's for certain. Calames is always one of the fastest, in fact quite often sets the fastest lap during the race. We've had that a few times this season, I believe, so it just goes to show that he just needs to improve that qualifying pace. As Bono Huis is starting to close the gap to Moran again. It's back down now to 7/10 of a second. Interesting
to see. I think he does need the DRS to stay close to him, because of the dirty air, it's impossible to get the speed you want, but it's compromising a bit on the straights when you can open the DRS. So maintaining the gap for Bono here.
Yeah, and it's an interesting game of cat and mouse. There's been no attempts to overtake by Bono. He's never quite been close enough, but they've just been closing up and then losing time again. They really are swapping fastest lap times, and it's great to see that kind of thing when you're just watching these two drivers going at it and giving it absolutely everything. And both of them are just trying to drive as fast as they can. They're giving 110%, and Bono Huis is trying desperately. He knows, really, it's from a championship point of view, he's got to win today, hasn't he, Chris?
Yeah, and also from a personal point of view, he's a guy, he's a true winner, and I'm sure he wants this win like no other. But he has to fight for it still, and well, he is fighting hard at this moment. It's all we want to see, drivers that are really working for their victory.
Yep, so Morgan Moran then is out front at the moment, and he's looking pretty strong in the way he's gone. Bono Huis in that 2nd position. Jim Paresis is 3rd. And we're just looking further back down the order at the progress. Martin Gosby hasn't made the progress he would have liked. He's still 11th and has been repassed by Norbert Leitner. So Leitner is still in 10th position at the moment. And there's a couple of seconds in front of them to Kastadanov, so they're not really with him. But nevertheless, it's not quite going for Gosby as he would have liked, especially given that he looked quite good in warm-up in the pace.
Yeah, he did, but he did start on the harder compound, as you said. So yeah, he might, he's trying to make the best of this stint, I believe, and trying to catch up more time when the other drivers have to go on the harder compound. And he already has that out of it, so he can just stay on the soft tires after this, and I think he will do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out. Jack Keithley is 20th, and he's not really making any inroads into anyone, so I'm assuming he must have damage. Although the car doesn't look like it's going from side to side, but he's not very fast at all at the moment.
No, but maybe he will improve during the race. I don't know.
Well, he is on the harder tyre, but there are several other drivers that are also on that tyre that are plenty ahead of him, so not quite sure what's going on there with Keithley. Perhaps we can find that out later on. Fabrizio Gobbi, by the way, I think he's, I'm not quite sure what he's doing. Apparently he's still out on track because he's not, his name isn't blue, so he must still be out on circuit somewhere, but nevertheless he seems to, he's not moved a lap for ages.
No, anyway, it's really unfortunate for him, like in that way to have a problem, but yeah, there's always next race.
Yeah, there certainly is. He is actually driving round at the moment, but I think this lap time... The strange thing is, according to his actual personal thing, it says he's on lap 8, but the timing beam hasn't picked him up since lap 4. So I think it's just refound him again. So he's back up to 13th place, and after 3 laps, it's finally found him again. Well, he's just gone wide in turn 2, so that won't have helped.
Oh, good that there's not a major problem then. It might be just R Factor 2 that's messing about a bit. But
and Rodriguez has had contact with somebody again. I don't think it was his fault this time, actually, to be fair. Fabrizio Gobbi is the man that he's had contact with. So Rodriguez again in the wars, and Gobby is slowing down, and I suspect as he got some damage, as Rodriguez has got somebody else up the inside of him, and I have to say Rodriguez is looking a bit past Maldonado today, which I think is the new phrase for it.
Well, that's a hard one to take, but yeah, I know what you mean.
And Rodriguez, I don't think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that time round I don't think it was his fault. So, although I really don't think, when it comes to having the reviews today, I really don't think that's going to help Rodriguez much with his arguments.
But on the other hand, we have almost a sort of
Van Starkenburg in the pit. Sorry, Chris, and this is an early pit stop. 8 laps into the race, well, at the end of the 9th lap, in fact, Van Starkenburg into the pit lane.
Yeah, but as you just said, if Rodriguez is the Maldonado this season of this race, it's definitely Prost and Senna in that order on the front row now with Morgan and Donna. But yeah, those guys haven't lost each other for more than a second this entire race.
Sorry, Chris, you just had a major incident. Zuhat's Cabo has just collided, I think, with one of the Ghost Speed boys. I think it was Eros Mashuli. Or it was Blair Disley. So, and what's happened here is Cabo has, oh, dear me.
Yeah, dear me indeed.
I was just watching the replay, and Disley, it was like they didn't quite know each other was there. They just made contact with the wheels. But when you make contact with a wheel, it can really magnify an accident, can't it, Chris? Because those wheels are moving parts, so the momentum just sends the cars up in the air almost as well from the way they collide. As Van Starkenburg is now battling with Martin Gosby. Starkenburg, of course, on those new fresher tyres. He's just been into the pit lane, and you would have thought he would make his way past Martin Gosby pretty quickly, but nevertheless losing a lot of time through cops in the dirty air, and that is something that we will see. Van Starkenburg, this won't be helping him at all, especially in his battle with Paresis. So going to be interesting to see if Jim Paresis, of course Martin Gosby's teammate, read into that what you want to, he will be gaining some time from this. Van Starkenburg needs to get past soon, and Paresis is responding because he's in the pit lane. So this is going to be interesting. Where will Paresis come out? And Starkenburg still can't get past Gosby. So this is going to be interesting. Let's watch Paresis on exit from the pit lane. Will he be ahead of Rob Van Starkenburg, who is having another look at Martin Gosby but still doesn't manage to make the move stick?
I don't think so, though. I think Van Starkenburg will jump him.
Well, I'm not so sure, Chris, because Paresis is at the exit.
Yeah, he's out, you're right.
He's out, right. And Paresis is in front of Van Starkenburg, and comfortably in front of Van Starkenburg.
Wow, so brilliant move from Paresis, and my intuition was definitely not on pace there. And now the frustration is getting a hold of Rob. That is saying, come on, dude, just give me that one little bit of space. But it's fair to say that Martin has every right to defend this defense.
Yeah, of course he does. I mean, you never know later in the race.
But Martin is closing the door firmly, holding grip through that corner. But
the thing is, at this stage, Chris, we don't know who is on what strategy, so it could well be that Martin Gosby's on a much longer strategy, in which case if he lets him through now, he doesn't know, he may be battling Van Starkenburg for position later in the race, and if that does happen, he doesn't want to be letting him through now. It's one of those things where you kick yourself later on if you do let them through, and it turns out that you end up battling with them, and that's why I always think when some experts on motorsport say, oh, they should just let him through, he's on a fresher set of tyres, I always think that's a load of rubbish, because if you do end up battling them later on and you lose out to them by a couple of seconds, you're going to be kicking yourself.
Greco is in the pit.
Yeah, he is. He was actually the fastest man out on circuit as well in those final few laps was Greco. He was catching Weiss and Moran, so it really put some great laps in there, Greco. Maybe that might help him to jump Van Starkenburg as well. So this is going to be interesting, Greco, as he goes on to another set of medium tyres, I think. Yes, he does. So another set of medium tyres, and does he come out in front of Van Starkenburg? Yes, he does.
And both the Venta SimRace cars have just pitted as well.
But behind Paresis still. So Van Starkenburg is really losing out here. He's still behind Martin Gosby. He has not managed to get past him, and he's now, I'm just looking, he's already 4 seconds behind Paresis.
There will be a move now, sorry to interrupt, but he's on the inside. Norbert Leitner is still in front. He wants to jump both of them, and he makes contact with Leitner. That's maybe a little bit optimistic from Rob, but also a little bit desperate to get past. Gosby now almost overtook Norbert Leitner, but Leitner re-overtook him again. And now Rob finally has the clean space he was been looking for at the first place.
Well,
but essential for Rob, because if he didn't get stuck, he might as well be in front of Paresis, who is now on his harder compound and in 5th position.
Bono Huis must have done a mistake because he's actually now in 1.4 seconds behind Morgan Moran. He's also in the pit lane. I don't know about Van Starkenburg, Chris, because my personal opinion is, and as you know, I drive faster than speed. So if anyone's going to be biased here, it's going to be me. But up faster than speed, we've certainly been advocating that aggressive overtaking manoeuvres should still be allowed. And I don't think there was anything wrong with what Van Starkenburg did. I think it was a great move. And at the end of the day, he made contact with Leitner a little bit, but it was only light, and it was wheel to wheel, so it wasn't anything that was going to cause damage. Leitner is also in the pit lane now, but I don't think Leitner will have sustained any damage from that.
No, definitely not. It was just maybe a little bit over the edge, but nothing in particular, really bad or something. But yeah, he's finally in some clean air and eager to get in the gearbox range of Jim.
Yeah, David Greco has been in the pit lane again.
Wow, maybe
which is not good news. I can only assume that he's had some damage. It might be a good idea actually if we can contact to maybe get somebody to tell us. Maybe David Dominguez could tell us over the broadcast chat or the supporter chat. I don't know whether the Greco has had some damage there because I can't quite work out why he's been back in the pit lane. We'll try and find that out for you. In the meantime, Morgan Moran, will he pit this time around to protect against Huis, who, by the way, is only a second ahead of Paresis. Paresis' outlap and inlap must have been brilliant because he not only did he jump Van Starkenburg, he's only a second behind Bono Huis.
Yeah, interesting. Really interesting. So let's see now. Well, Morgan should cover him. I mean, if Bono can get some clean air now, he can just make up the difference. The gap is decreasing, of course. He comes out of the pit. Morgan is in front of him. But he's going for the overtake maneuver. Bono on the inside. Brilliant move from Bono. Oh, let each other live, guys. Contact there. That was really... Oh, and both are off the track. Morgan pushes Bono off the track.
And Jim Paresis takes the lead. And Jim Bono Huis, I think, is out. Is he? He's come back on. That was... Well, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes between these two. They are very aggressive with each other. As Huis makes a very bold move. But pulls out of it in the end, which I think was wise. Was from a long way back. That I would like to see that incident again between Moran and Huis because I'm not so sure about that one. And I wouldn't like to apportion any blame without seeing it again.
Yeah, definitely a miscommunication there between the drivers. Morgan obviously felt pushed out of the track by Bono with that dive from him. And then Morgan thought, what you can do, I can do too. And he pushed Bono out of the track a little bit. I think that wasn't really fair of Morant, and it's really emotions that came into play. I believe, but that's only my opinion. But very cheeky move there.
I suspect both drivers may well get a penalty for that, for the various incidents.
Yeah.
Huis at turn 2 and then Moran at turn 3. And yeah. I suspect that they will both probably be in trouble for that, for their various different incidents, to maybe different degrees, but certainly I think both of them will be asked to explain themselves.
Yeah, with the move itself, there was nothing wrong with the move Bono made. Only the thing that at the place we are driving now, he could have let Bono a little bit more space. Or he could have let...
But surely that's only because Moran went off the circuit.
Yeah, but I mean he squeezed Morant a little bit, but maybe a little bit too much, and then Morant thought, I'm gonna squeeze you really hard back, and maybe that wasn't the correct thing to do from Morgan, but nevertheless the fight is full of tension here, and both drivers just want to beat each other, and there's a history between them. So
nevertheless, it's giving us a great battle for the lead now.
That's what I wanted to say. It's really awesome to see so much commitment to who's going to take this win. So two dogs are fighting for a bone, I'm gonna take it while you're fighting, and see you later.
Certainly that incident, though, I think Morgan's going to be in more trouble than Huis, and we have got the idiot on the broadcast again who's just saying that everything Huis is doing is wrong.
Sorry to interrupt, but Morgan gone wide a little bit, and that allowed... Oh, he went straight through the grass and then rejoined the track, so that allowed Bono to pass him, and it makes the lead of Jim Paresis only bigger at this moment. And Rob van Starkenburg is now on the gearbox of Morgan, and he has to be careful he's not being overtaken by him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting this though. Morgan Moran is really having a couple of, well, ragged laps. I think he's being kind, but he's not gone well for him over the last couple of laps. So Bono Huis is now up to second. Interestingly though, Jim Paresis is actually pulling a gap, and Rob van Starkenburg is coming right up behind these two as well. So Moran and Huis have lost a little bit of their edge here, and there are a lot of drivers pulling themselves back into this battle. Berliak's there as well.
Yeah, this is what we want to see. So 5 drivers now fighting for the lead, effectively within a few seconds of each other. And well, it's just getting better. Ivar Kalame started from 11th position, as we mentioned earlier, and is now fighting himself into 6th place. Only a 2-second gap shy of 5th place Peter Brilliard. So
I did actually say, interestingly, Ed, I wasn't going to mention this, but I said to somebody else earlier, I thought Jim Paresis would have a good chance of winning today, because Greece are playing football later tonight, and he'll probably want to finish as quick as possible. So it'll probably be doubly quick. And here we are. And he's obviously decided he really wants to get that telly turned on.
Indeed, but yeah, nevertheless, they still have a lot of laps to go, and well, it's just interesting to see how 2 drivers can get into that high of a state of emotion. You know, that they force each other off.
Sorry, Chris, Norbert Leitner is off the track, and I think he may have suspension damage or something. He's not looking ill their shape, although the car looks okay now. He's got back on the circuit, so maybe it was just the bumpiness of the grass there, but he's down to 13th place, and he has lost a lot of time. He's lost about 16 seconds there, and he's going to be under pressure from Rodriguez as well, so Leitner has been off just at the exit of Copse. Really
unfortunate for him. Leitner was one of the guys I was wondering how will he do this race. You know, it's WC. He did a staggering performance yesterday, I believe, and now it's just yeah, time to shine. But a lot of things have gone wrong for him, unfortunately. And Bono now is really getting closer to Jim Paresis now, and if he stays within this range, he will have DRS on the hanger straight. And Morgan now finding himself in a troubled position. He cannot quite follow Jim like Bono is doing.
No, he certainly can't. It's going to be interesting to see what happens later on with those earlier incidents, because you wouldn't have thought, it's strange that Morgan did what he did, because you wouldn't have thought he'd have risked it given his lead in the championship, because it really doesn't matter if Bono finishes ahead of him here, because he's got plenty of lead. He can afford to finish behind Bono a few times, but anyway, Bono Huis down the hanger straight is behind Jim Paresis, but Paresis has got a good straight line speed, and it's not going to prove easy, Chris.
No, it's not, and Jim is a guy that knows how to defend, and he's a tough cookie to crack.
He certainly is, and Jim Paresis, great to see him out front. He's on the harder tyre as well. I don't know if Bono and Morgan are. We're just going to check that as they come round, actually. They have not really seen that. I think Bono certainly is, so they're both on the same tyres. Not sure about Morgan. I would imagine Morgan is also on the harder tyre, because I can't imagine he's going that much. He's going slower than them on the medium, so all should be on the same tyre.
And Jim is now really taking defensive lines already for Bono, saying I am aware that you are really getting closer to me, and I'm not giving you this place willingly. So definitely giving a message to Bono, and this allows Morgan to catch up. And if those 2 drivers are battling each other too hard.
By the way, the Calamaze is coming, because on the last lap, Paresis, Huis and Moran were all mid-36ers. Yeah. Ivar Calamaze, 36.0.
He's the only driver of those of the top 6. He's driving 6th. That is on the softer compound of the 2.
I think Van Starkenburg is as well in 4th. I think.
Oh yeah, he is. My bad. Excusez-moi. But yeah, so he's looking up to charge to at least Briljak and the rest of the pack in front with a harder compound. But he has to manage to keep the space. I believe Rob still has to go to the harder tire. So yeah, it will effectively be undone at a later part of the race.
It's a shame David Greco had that problem earlier on, because I suspect he would be in this battle as well for the lead, because he is in the 35s. He's the only man in the 35s, and he is at the moment lapping faster than other people, certainly, and he's back up to 10th place, despite having had quite a lengthy second pit stop. When he came back in, it was a good 15 seconds in his pit stall, at least, as Paresis runs wide, and Weiss gets through up the inside. Now Paresis will come back at him, certainly, and he does, and Weiss runs out on the exit, but he's managed to keep the position, and now Paresis is going to be vulnerable to Morgan Moran. Moran surely will want to get through. Moran's on the grass. Oh, he spun out and take him out. Oh, no. And I'm sorry, Morgan, but, well, I'm going to have to see that again. Was that aggressive defending by Paresis? Was it just too aggressive a move by Moran? Whatever. Moran touched the grass and spun out, and it's taken Paresis out of this race, and more than likely taken Morgan out as well.
I think, yeah, Morgan did touch the grass, but...
Oh, that's a tough one to call. Seeing the replay, it's really touch and go to whether Moran was just over-aggressive or whether Paresis crowded him off the circuit. But the problem is, at a track like this, it's so often so difficult, because the speed they're going around here is a very high-speed circuit, and it's very difficult. But I wouldn't like to call that one. Luckily, that's not my job.
Well, fair to say, there was still a lot of space left between Jim and Moran, so...
And Paresis is out of the race, unfortunately. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. And it just seems strange that Morgan's getting involved in these incidents. We've not seen him do this at all this year. He doesn't get involved. And I know he's been out in front for some of it, but he has been involved in battles this year. And yeah, it's just surprising to see him having a quite incident-littered day today. But I guess every driver has one once a year.
Yeah, definitely, and it was of course the circumstance that made the crash possible. But I think it was Moran who touched the grass and made everything go from bad to worse. Nevertheless, he is still driving, and it's the main focus for him to still get some great points in. But Rob van Starkenburg is now second, and Bono is well in the lead, and. Yeah, this is just interesting stuff. Yeah,
certainly it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. As yeah, I think Morgan might be getting into some. That's of course if Morgan is allowed to keep third, because he may get disqualified. But we'll see what happens anyway. Martin Gosby, yes, as you said, on the inside of Lepela.
He most certainly is, and he's trying to make life hard for Lepela, but it's so hard for himself to get into a good spot, because the dirty air is just so incredible here that it's just getting almost impossible to get lined up for a great move. Maybe now is the move when DRS is open. The gap is just so big at the moment.
Yeah, so, well, Morgan Moran at the moment in third place. I suspect, having seen the replay a couple of times, he won't be keeping that, but we'll see what happens. I'm not going to say anything about this guy on the YouTube chat because I'm just getting annoyed with him now. But anyway, Bono Weiss is leading the race. Rob van Starkenburg is in second place, but Weiss has a decent lead on him at the moment. So Martin Gosby, though, attacking Lepela again.
Will he make the move stick this time?
And yeah, well, there's going to be plenty of opportunities. This is one, and that's a great move. Gosby up the inside and into 7th place. Norbert Leitner is in the pits in the meanwhile. That might also give Greco an opportunity on Lepela as they go down the straight. And Lepela, will he move across and defend? Because Greco's going to be in the DRS. Greco's going to take a move, but didn't quite get it made to stick. So David Greco stays in 9th position for the meantime. Also, a note out, because Daniel Brewer on his debut is in 10th place and on course for a World Championship point for the Avid Chronic team.
Interesting. And with all the chaos going on, indeed, he's the one that can profit of that situation. But yeah, it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, it certainly is. And well, Van Starkenburg now 3 seconds. Huis is pulling out the gap. Moran, meanwhile, is back inside the DRS zone of Rob Van Starkenburg. But the thing is that we know that Van Starkenburg is not, he's not terrible in a straight line, and we know that Moran was hitting the speed limiter at times in qualifying. Now, Moran's off. He's having a really incident-strewn day today, isn't he? It was straight on at turn 1, out of shape, and that car does not look stable in this race.
No, it certainly sustained some damage from that incident earlier with Paresis, and well, the effect is more than clear and visible that it's influencing his driving performance at the moment.
It certainly is. Moran's disappeared off our timing sheets for a moment. I'm not quite sure why that is. We've had a few of drivers doing that today, though, so I don't think there's anything to worry about. Norbert Leitner's pit stop has now put him down to 17th, and I think Leitner must have had a problem. That's a shame, because he was running well today, but he's down to 17th place for the time being. He might be able to fight back through, though, because he's only a second behind Paolini, and only about 20 seconds behind 11, so, a few more retirements, you never know. Greco, meanwhile, has made it past Lepela.
Good job from him.
And he did it down round the outside of Luffield, I think.
Well, definitely working his way back up the grid. Greco with that unfortunate second pit stop, which reasons are still unknown to us why he had to make that second pit stop in 2 laps. But yeah, he's, at least he didn't lose the spirit, and he's climbing the ladder of the grid positions.
Right,
we've got is pitting.
Several pit stops. Van Starkenburg, Berliak, Calamise all in. So this is going to be a battle of pit stops because they're all quite close together. Not very often you see this in FSR, but everybody bunched up, and that means that this is going to be a battle out of the pits. And if it looks okay, it's a good stop by Van Starkenburg. Where will Berliak feed back in? And I think it's as you were. Yes, it is. So that's the way things are. They're going to come out with Gosby, I think, around that area. Yes, they are. Martin Gosby is just behind the 3 of them. So they have managed to keep that position, although Gosby and Calamise close together. But Calamise holds on, so that's important, because they would have lost time to Berliak otherwise.
Still some nice battling going on here. So looking at this now, Bono Huis then has a 3.1 second lead over Morgan Moran. That could get tasty if the 2 of them get back together again. So we'll see that as the race goes on. Just looking at the lap times at the moment. On the last lap, Moran was 0.6 quicker than Bono Huis, so they might well end up back together again, although Huis is gaining a bit of time over this lap, I think, so it may be that Huis just had a bad lap. Yeah, well, certainly the emotions are high. But Morgan
and that's just in the commentary box.
Yeah, definitely in their digital cockpits or living rooms. They would feel a lot more tension right now. But Morgan Moran's really twitchy on the exits and constantly adjusting because of his damage, I'm sure. Yeah, well, I'm fairly certain if Morgan hasn't got any damage, then they need to take a few structural integrity tips from NetRex, because I would be very surprised if that car's not got any damage. Martin Gosby is now in the pit lane himself for the Twister Racing Black team and gets on his way again. No, he doesn't. He's still in the pit lane. So Martin Gosby then in the pit lane. That will drop him back down the order. I think he'll still come out in 8th. Or will he come out in front of Daniel Brewer? It's going to be close, actually. Brewer's going to be right with him. In fact, Brewer jumps him. So Daniel Brewer then having a great race at the moment. He's now up into 8th position, just ahead of Martin Gosby. Great job from Brewer there. He's eager to show us all what he can do. Had a really unfortunate race in Pro. And well, he's got a nice fresh start now again. So let's see if he can make some moves stick and get some good points in.
Yep, certainly. Morgan Moran has got the gap down again a little bit on this lap, so he's back to them trading lap times. It's up to, now back up to 3.6. So
that would really be interesting to see those two again. Yeah, that would really be interesting to see those two again. And well, let's just hope they let each other live for just a tiny amount of space now.
It could all end in tears, but let's hope not. We're nearly halfway through this race now. Huis and Moran haven't come in again yet, but of course they're on the harder tyre. So it'll be interesting to see whether they do come in again shortly. We've got, amazingly, with all the action we've had in this opening 24 laps, there are still 28 laps to go.
Definitely.
So it just shows you how much action we've managed to pack into 24 laps. FSR is always action-packed, there's no doubt about that. What do you think about this DRS zone, Chris? Well, we've got a little bit of a breather, which hasn't happened in this race much.
I think
why does it start that early? Because nobody uses it until they get onto the straight, so what's the point?
I don't know, but I think the position of it also during Hanger Straight is really, really good to have it right there. I mean, it's the best possible way at overtaking, I believe. And well, to have a little bit of advantage there might be compromising to the dirty air all the drivers are getting.
I was thinking more about the one on the National Straight, because the DRS zone on there, which is after turn 2, I think, starts before the corner. And I tried this myself in practice, and it ended quite badly. If you open the DRS before that corner, which you can do, but if you try it, you do find yourself usually in the wall. Backwards.
Yeah, and that's really not what anyone wants here at this moment.
So it'll be interesting to see what goes on here. Morgan Moran is, well, he's got to play a strategy play here, I think, because he's 3.4 seconds down on Bono. They're trading lap times, but they are very similar. In fact, on that last lap, Morgan Moran gained less than a tenth of a second. It was just hundredths in it. So there's definitely, at the moment, Morgan needs to have a rethink and think, well, how can I get myself back up to Huis's area? David Greco is back in the pit lane from 6th position. So we just can see how it carry on. Chris de Jong, unfortunately, his R factor has just crashed. So
I'm trying to restart it. I might be pending an open session as a spectator.
The hamsters have stopped running, obviously.
Hey, it's only 5 years old. I can do it. Yeah. Eternity.
It works by clockwork, I'm sure. It's 18th century, they had to run dust off it. But anyway, Ville Leppeler is out of the race, just to let you know, Chris, because you're in the dark as much as everybody else now. And unfortunate for Ville, so he was having a great race, but he is now out of the race as well. So that's really unfortunate for him. Greco has come back out in 9th position. Morgan Moran has taken a couple of tenths out of Bono Huis this time round, so he's up to 3.2 seconds. Down to 3.2 seconds, rather. We'll see as it goes through this next part. Can he close that down? Calamise is getting close to Berliak as well, so we'll keep an eye on that as Moran's gone back up to 3.6. So it goes trading those lap times between them, those sector times between them at the moment.
Honestly, after that crash with Morgan and Paris, I was thinking like this is it for Morgan. I mean, that impact was pretty hard, and yet again he manages to stay on the track and even make life harder for Bono. But the question remains: what will the admin's decision be like after the race? That's also in the back of his mind. I'm sure he will be completely focusing now on the race that lies ahead. But he must still have this feeling of, oh, what happened there, you know?
I think as a driver, though, Chris, you've got to get that out of your mind, haven't you? Because whatever result he achieves, yes, it's going to be provisional because we don't know what's going to happen with the stewards' inquiry. But nevertheless, as a driver, you've just got to forget about that and get on with the rest of the race and get the best. Because if you're thinking about other things, you tend to make more mistakes.
Yeah, I'm suddenly thinking about Martin Brundle having that crash in Australia, being upside down, almost torn apart. And 10 minutes later he's on the grid again, ready to race. But yeah, in here, I mean, if you have that little bit of concentration buzz when something else happens, you can quickly lose your rhythm and...
Sorry, Chris, Morgan's off. Morgan Moran has spun. He's really having a bad day today. I think he will lose the place to Van Stark. He's actually managed to get back on the track again. But he's going to come on in... Oh, careful, Morgan. He just about managed to come back on safely there, but he nearly came back on straight in front of Berliak and collected him. So Morgan Moran down to 4th. Bono Huis is in the pit lane. but Morgan Moran is not having a good afternoon, it has to be said. Having said that, he is still 4th, but nevertheless, he's not having the greatest of weekends, and Bono Huis has got to capitalise here. As Moran gets out of shape again, I think he's got to pit. Those tyres are obviously shot. They're not working for him, and Calamise is going to go up the inside. Van Starkenburg takes the lead of the race with Huis's pit stop. Huis comes back out of the pit lane. He's virtually right behind Moran.
Yeah, definitely, and what an action here on the track. I think it's a result of the earlier incident, because this is certainly not like Moran driving here, going off the track once every 10 laps. There's more going on by that.
Yeah, it certainly is, but Van Starkenburg leads for the meantime with Berliak just 3/10 behind him, and Moran is now going to be in a battle with Bono Huis very shortly, because Calamise is between them at the moment, but Calamise is all over the back of Morgan Moran, who seems to be struggling with his tyres and is still going out there, but nevertheless is in a position at the moment where he's nearly a full pit stop behind Bono Huis, and it's just been one of those days for Morgan Moran. As I say, you're very unlikely to go a hole as Calamise gets straight out of Huis's way, and now battle is on, although in this case Moran knows that Huis is a pit stop ahead of him. I don't suspect though that he's just going to let him through.
No, I don't think so too, and it will be interesting to see what will happen. But maybe the frustrations of Morgan are really that high that he's thinking to himself, I'm going to make life hard as possible for you on the track. And if they respect each other and the track limits, there is no problem with that. But yeah.
Well, Moran is not letting Huis through, and he's got Huis right behind him now, but I suspect it's going to be difficult to resist, because Huis is on the much fresher tyres. Moran, will he have a look on the inside? I don't think that's a good idea, Bono. Save yourself, because you want to make this move stick. That's for certain. Huis out of shape through turn 1. It's interesting, because during practice, everybody was looking very stable, and it was the same in qualifying, and during the race we've seen so many sideways moments. Just shows how hard they're pushing. But Huis, that's a good move, has cut back up the inside. They're going to have contact again. Are they? No, they're not. They've managed. Moran gave him room, and that is going to go all the way down to the next corner. Moran brakes late. He's trying to hold on, but he's not going to be able to. Huis is on the fresher tyres, and I suspected that would be what had happened, but Moran did give Huis room, and Huis has managed to make the move stick.
Yes, he did, and it was a brilliant move as well. And now it's time for Bono to have some clean air and get ahead of everyone. But that's easier said than done.
It certainly is. Rob Van Starkenburg is your current race leader, and interestingly, of course, he is on the hard tyre now, which is his hard tyre stint, and just trying to think when he last pitted.
Peter Berliak now really getting closer to Rob Van Starkenburg.
I'm just going to throw something out here, Chris. I've just noticed, I had a look, Van Starkenburg only pitted 5 laps ago, and I think Berliak the same, so actually they're on the same amount of pit stops as Huis, and they're in front of him.
Yeah, because I thought Huis would be, effectively in the lead, but if Rob can make this stint stick together with Peter Berliak, then they are certainly off. Peter is on the softer compound and Rob is on the harder compound, so it's essential for Rob to keep him behind. So he ruins the stint of Berliak, and it's his right to do so as well, because he's in the front. Peter now, with the DRS effect, can't get close enough.
Yeah, meanwhile, Levi Calamise is on Morgan Moran, and he's going to take a move. Oh.
Slide.
I'm sorry, I'm getting jittery all the time now. This has just had so many incidents in this race, you never know where it's going to come next. But Moran definitely struggling. I'm not quite sure why he's carrying on. I assume he's trying to make it on one more stop, and maybe he feels the others can't. Because he's still out there on tyres that look very decidedly second-hand. Let's put it this way, you wouldn't be putting them on your Ford Fiesta, I know that for certain.
No, definitely.
And Moran, but nevertheless, he's only 6.6 seconds off the lead. If he can make it on one more stop like everybody else, he may play himself back into this, which would be amazing considering the amount of incidents he's had today. But nevertheless, we 29 laps into this race, we're about to complete the 30th. And we're just looking further down the order. Greco has made his way back up into 8th place now, and he's only 23 seconds off the lead, which is amazing considering the incident that he had earlier on where he had to have that second long pit stop.
Yeah, definitely, and it's surprising for him also considering the circumstances where people like Morgan Morant and Bono House crashed each other a little bit, which allowed Paresis and Van Starkenburg to go through. And what happened after that, well, we all know what happened after that. So a lot of drivers like Van Starkenburg are really taking advantage of that mistake.
Yeah, they certainly are, and all the incidents that Huis and Moran have had, I mean, they're 3rd and 4th, which is what has happened, is allowed Van Starkenburg and Berliak to play themselves into this equation, to be looking at the possibility of winning a race. And Huis has been catching them a lot, but he is on the softer tyre. They're doing their hard stint, so you'd expect that. Later on in the race, they will probably go back onto the softer compound, and then it'll be a more even playing field.
Yeah, and let's just see where it takes them.
So I don't know when the last pit stops will be, if there are going to be any more pit stops. But Morgan Moran is now 6 seconds behind this battle for the lead. Himself and Ivar Kalame is getting very close together indeed, and I think that's where there's going to be a move, if anywhere. But Moran has been holding on to that quite nicely.
Yeah, and it would be his right to do so. I mean, he can decide the racing line here. Ooh, as Morant pits, Morgan Morant is in the pits.
Right, so 22 laps, that should easily be doable, so he probably will be going to the end here, I should have thought.
And Bono's really getting close now to Peter and Tara, I should say. And Rob just taking wide entries.
Yeah, Morgan Moran is having a nightmare of a week because he's just messed up his pit stop and missed the pit box and had to reverse as well, so... Yeah. It's really not going well today for Morgan. At least if you're going to make your mistakes, you might as well make them all in one race, and then you don't have to worry for the rest of the season.
Indeed, that would be the perfect compromise there, and I'm sure he would be happy with that as well. But yeah, nevertheless, that's as easy as it is. Rob van Starkenburg is leading, but really getting under threat by Peter, and the threat behind that, Bono House, is immense. Bono is just diving early up the inside, he's going wide and off the track as well. So that's another cut lap from Bono.
And this is the thing, we've seen so many mistakes, so many drivers as well.
Sorry, Peter Berliak knocked off his brakes.
And Berliak goes off.
So this is Rob van Starkenburg and Bono once again, like in China where they were fighting off a podium. And Rob just let Bono through, it seemed. I don't think he will make the same mistake again. He is leading this race, and he is on the harder compound. So if he can just keep House behind him for like 10 laps or something, House's tires will just be destroyed.
Yeah, they certainly will, and Van Starkenburg has to play to that. Huis has been in the dirty air a lot over the last few laps, so that will hurt his tyres more than it will Van Starkenburg, who's been out front. So yes, he's on the harder compound, but Huis will be damaging those tyres in the dirty air, and the longer Van Starkenburg can keep him behind, as Chris said,
yeah, but he's already going
defensive.
He's just letting him through.
Right.
He's letting him through.
I don't like to see that.
Rob van Starkenburg lets Bono House pass.
Look, I know that they're sister teams and all that, but we want to see some battling, and I don't like that at all.
I mean,
anyway, well, I mean, it's happened before. We know that the Precision Stable, that's how they play. So they did it last year with Gosby as well. So let's, we know that's how Precision play. So we shouldn't really be surprised. But it's disappointing.
Rob van Starkenburg definitely comfortable with the role as Felipe Massa here in the camp of Precision, and lets Bono House pass to take probably the victory here. Not my choice to make, Rob, but it's a FSR World Championship victory, and really sad to see you do that personally. Nevertheless, let's respect their team orders, and it leaves us with Bono House leading this race.
Yeah, it certainly does. It's robbed us of a great battle, which is unfortunate for the viewers because there's no doubt now that Huis will pull clear and it's going to be difficult to see anybody battling him for the win.
No,
and I think that's the problem more than anything, isn't it, Chris? It's the viewers that suffer with things like that.
Well, maybe a little bit, and before there will be people saying no, he didn't let him through. He clearly went half throttle for like 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah,
there.
you don't go 250 kilometers an hour. Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. So definitely let him through there. But yeah, it's not what we want to see. But the only thing the entire precision camp, which GT Omega, the Omega Racing is clearly a part of, it doesn't want that. So there are 2 teams here fixing the victory, and it's not preferable. But I understand it out of their perspectives. But for the commentary, for the spectating point of view, it's definitely throwing just ash in a fine dinner, you know?
Yeah, it certainly is. By the way, we should probably take a screenshot. Morgan Moran, P8. That's probably not going to happen very much this year, but that's where he is at the moment. Martin Gosby, meanwhile, is all over the back of Bianca Stadanov. I don't think you're going to make a move down into Kops, though, Martin. I'd wait a little bit if I were you. He's got to get a good run through the complex here, the SS complex of Maggots and Beckis, because down the Hanger Straight is more of an opportunity, but he's lost a bit of space. And I suspect that the reason he's lost that space is because he took a narrow entry into Kops because he was looking up the inside. If he hadn't have done that, he might have got a better run.
Yeah, indeed, but nevertheless.
Still, never mind. Gosby is in 6th position, so he's having a decent race. I think the top 10, barring any mistakes from them, has probably been decided because there's a 20-second gap between Keithley in 10th and Leitner in 11th, which, you know, Norbert's a fast driver, but 20 seconds is going to be difficult for him to close down, I think, over the course of this race. But nevertheless, we're looking at Bono Huis, who now has already a 3-second lead over Rob van Starkenburg, and he's pulling away at a fast rate of knots. So the chances are that we probably would have seen Huis overtake Van Starkenburg anyway, but it would have nice to have actually seen him have to make an attempt at it.
Yeah, definitely. But now other people are well into the top 10. Dian Kostadinov, who's still looking for a great result here, could say a 5th place is a great result in scoring terms. So definitely trying to hold on for that position, but it's going to be hard because behind him on fresher tires and on softer tires is Martin Gosby. And well, if there's one driver who definitely shown improvement this season, it's Martin Gosby clinching his win in Imola, his first win. And obviously trying to get that 5th place back from Dion. So Bono comfortably in the lead.
Yeah, I was just looking at the lap times, and there's something. I think Morgan Moran must have sustained damage earlier on because he's on fresher tyres than Bono, and he's no faster. He's lapping at roughly the same pace. So clearly something wrong with that Netrex car, because I can't imagine that on newer tyres, and quite a lot newer tyres, Morgan Moran is that much.
No,
I mean, it's only.
It's clear he's sustained damage from those incidents, and
as he runs wide again at Stowe.
Yeah, he wants to still get the points necessary for his champion, and he would maybe even drive in 10th place where you get only 1 point. But it's essential. It might be essential during the end of the season.
Yeah, certainly. Mike Calamise has just been into the pit lane, so he's going to have newer tyres than everybody, and he's obviously decided that maybe he's trying to get 2nd place here. Has gone for a fresh set of medium tyres. Although he's come back out in 8th, but I suspect he's going to make up some places quite quickly as Gosby gets up the inside of Dian Kostadinov for 4th and makes the move stick. So that's a great move by Martin Gosby, and he is up into 4th position. He's 13 seconds behind Peter Berliak. I think that's going to be a tall order to close that down, but we'll see. He might be able to do it.
Yeah, he might. Well, Ivar Calamise, he has got fresher tires. He got 17 laps to pass all the drivers. I'm just curious, if he ever gets P3, will Rob van Starkenburg let him go as well? Who knows? You know?
It's a very good question. I doubt it somehow. But
So place your bets.
we'll see. I hope not, because that really would be a kick in the teeth.
Yeah,
for us,
we want to see racing, and if it is going over the edge, I rather. Ooh, as I interrupt myself talking because Rob van Starkenburg is pitting, and behind him is Peter Briljak, who is saying, "No, I'm not gonna get you away with, let you get away with a free outlap on new fresh tires. I'm coming with you. We're gonna battle this face to face."
Yeah, and Greco in the pit lane as well, a few seconds behind them. It's frustrating actually. I reckon Greco could have been up with Huis if he hadn't had his incident earlier on. Maybe it's wishful thinking on my part, but I just think he could have been, especially with all the incidents that have gone on.
I don't think it's that wishful. He's shown tremendous pace, and he has. Bono actually said before the start of the race during the chat, "Greco is back, guys." So yeah, Bono was also confident in that.
Ivar Calamies, meanwhile, is right behind Morgan Moran and attacking for that position. Van Starkenburg came back out in front of Martin Gosby after his pit stop. Berliak was behind, but there goes Calamies, but Moran's very late on the brakes. There's nothing wrong with them. It might be looking a bit out of shape with his tyres and not looking like the car's handling the best, but there's nothing wrong with the braking power of that car, that's for certain. And they're up to 6th. It's a battle for 6th now. So Calamies and Moran, well, as Moran runs wide, no, sorry, Calamies runs wide at Copse. So he's lost a little bit of time there. Morgan Moran back up to 6th position. And we'll see what sort of pace he can achieve from here. But at the moment, Bonnie Huis has a 19.7 second lead over Van Starkenburg. But of course, Van Starkenburg is now on fresher tyres. So that will be interesting to watch that gap and whether Huis needs to pit again.
Yeah, if he has to, then
Gosby's back in. Martin Gosby is back in the pit lane. Oh no, sorry, that is his pit stop. He was behind these guys. Sorry, I apologise, getting overexcited.
No problem. But Ivar Calamies, it's really crucial for him to pass Morgan this instant for his race. But Morgan will obviously think different from that.
Yes, he certainly will. Morgan Moran back up to 4th place now, but defending on older tyres, it has to be said as well. So there is that to bear in mind. Calamies will surely get a run on him down the national straight. Moran out of shape again as he goes defensive, and then I think Calamies is just going to come around the outside, and he is. And Calamies moves into 4th place quite easily.
Yeah, so good move from Ivar Calamies, clean from the outside, and makes the move stick here. And now it's time for him to try to catch Briljak, but he obviously pitted just a moment ago too.
Yep, he certainly did. Peter Briljak in 3rd place, and Calamies in 4th now. But it just shows Calamies, if he hadn't qualified 11th, he's another one who could be battling for race victories if his qualifying wasn't. He really just needs to improve that qualifying, doesn't he, to give himself a chance of winning these races, Chris?
Yeah, because the starting lineup, the starting position on the grid is so much more important than it was last year when you didn't have the dirty air. Well, if he just improves on his qualifying and get into P5, he can immediately follow the pack, of the front runners, and he might find himself in a more comfortably position. With not having to focus on all the drivers in front of him, just because he's 3 or 4 tenths slower than the others in qualifying.
I tell you what, Bono Huis either has to come into the pit lane soon, or has to hope that he doesn't have to pit again, because Van Starkenburg took 1.6 seconds out of him on that last lap.
Wow!
So that's a lot.
His pit light is not on yet.
And he's taken another 2 tenths out of him in the first sector as Van Starkenburg, which is not a very long sector. It's the middle sector where you gain most time.
Yeah, so let's see if we can see the pit light come up soon, because I don't think he will be coming in this lap. He does find himself trapped behind the back marker and instantly gets into the dirty air and instantly has to lift off his throttle. Yeah,
it's interesting because Van Starkenburg...
I think it's a bit broken, to be honest. The dirty air. It's a bit broken.
It's one way of describing it, yeah. I think that Bono Huis has got to be a little bit careful, because we know that Van Starkenburg will probably let him through, but Berliak won't, and it's going to be a bit touch and go with Berliak now.
Yeah, but Bono is in the pit, and I think he will still remain the leader of this race.
Yeah, well, it's 16.8 seconds. I'm not quite sure what the pit stop time around here was, but it's... we'll see. Van Starkenburg, as he came out of the final car, I think he'll be okay, Weiss, actually.
Yeah, he will be okay. He will be okay. But
so he's timed that to perfection.
He does carry more momentum here, but if he would let him through at the earlier part of the race, he will certainly not overtake this time around. So don't get your hopes up, I think. Peter Breuillaert now in 3rd place, eager to follow Rob van Starkenburg, but I think Rob van Starkenburg is just a little bit too quick today for Breuillaert.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. 7 tenths between Weiss and Van Starkenburg, but as we said, Van Starkenburg probably won't attack Weiss, so I really don't think it's a problem for Weiss. Yeah, discussions will go on about that later, I'm sure, along with a new multitude of other things. There are so many things that will be talked about on the forum.
Sorry to interrupt, but Breuillaert was already on the grass. I don't hope it's an early sign or a too early sign of tire degradation, but he's really taking wide lines.
Yeah, he certainly is. So we've had no retirement since lap 24, which is good, especially given all the action that we had in those early part of the races. It's calmed down a lot in the second half of the race, but we have seen a lot of changes in position. Morgan Moran at the moment only on course for 10 points this afternoon in 5th position.
Yeah, still 10 points he will cherish a lot given the circumstances. Jim actually had to retire after that incident and Morgan was able to continue the racing. So any point that he can save now will be cherished for him, because he doesn't want Bono to get too close to him in the championship. I'm sure that's his main aim, the championship, and that's why he's trying to still get every lap counting. But he does have had a very tough race, not on the Morgan standard we came used to as the last part of the race.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to give you an update on that. In fact, of course, the lead that Morgan Moran had over Bono Weiss going into this race was 43 points. As it stands, the positions that they are in at the moment, and that is very much subject to change, is going to be down to 28 points. But crucially for Morgan, that is still more than a race victory. Definitely.
And but it might give Bono the confidence boost he needs to get a hold over him much more often. The season is halfway now. This is the 6th race out of 12, and we still have a lot of nice races to come up. Monza, Suzuka, just to name 2 of them. And well, it's one of those venues where it will be decided.
And of course, Spa-Francorchamps, which is returning to the FSR calendar this year.
Yeah, and way too long last year. Last time was 2012. I drove that myself. But yeah, this in 2013 we sorely missed it. But happy to see it back again in RF2 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And another track that's returning, of course, is Hockenheim next time out, which I think is also a very welcome return. A circuit I really enjoy and usually provides great racing. So that'll be good to see that back in 7 weeks' time.
Do we drive Circuit of the Americas?
We do at the final race of the season, so that will be there as well. I believe Indianapolis is going to be back as well. So there's 2 races in the United States at the moment. That's the current schedule. So I don't think the Indianapolis one has always been subject to change, but I suspect it will go ahead because there's a very nice circuit available from ISI for that.
Yeah. It's rather nice. I don't really like the Circuit of the Americas. I think it's a little bit of, Suzuka and all the tracks combined, and then Thielke says, pay me 10 million, get it to you. But no, it's I rather like the more old school circuits, You don't have to have a lot of bends like Monza. Monza is still a great circuit with great corners, even though it has so many straights. It's still such a great track to drive.
Yeah, it certainly is. Greco was getting pretty close to Kostadinov up to a minute ago, but Greco runs wide out of Copse, and he just lost a couple of wide moments, which has just lost him a little bit of pace on Kostadinov. Mind you, he looks very good there through Maggots and Beckett's complex. A little bit wide out of the final bit, probably trying too hard through the first bit, ran out of effort when it got to the third part.
Yeah, interesting tale of this race. We got 10 laps to go, and Bono is still leading, and I think he will be remaining. He will be the leader in the remaining 10 laps of this race. Peter Briljak actually is looking to take Rob van Starkenburg. He still hasn't given up and is getting closer, 10th by 10th, lap by lap. But I don't think it will be enough with 10 laps still to go. Martin Gosby though finds himself into a 6th place, so compromising race for him.
Yep, certainly, and it's very close today. It's been great to see the cars so close together. First to 6th covered by less than 20 seconds at this race, so there's certainly not a lot of gap between the drivers, especially considering that we've been racing for over an hour. Just goes to show that it really has been close today, and that everybody has had very good pace. Bono Huis may well come out on top of it, but a number of drivers could have done today.
Yeah, definitely. We saw so many battles, and the battle with Morgan and Bono is actually what we've been wanting to see. Maybe it was a little bit over the edge, but the drama was complete right there. So yeah, it might be still things to come. We have 10 laps to go, and it's never over until the flag is out. We saw that perfect example of that 2 weeks ago in Canada, when we just had, well, a chaotic last 5 laps. Let's say chaotic to say the least.
Yeah, it's definitely, and well, just looking at the gap now at the front, it's 3.7 seconds. Huis ahead of Van Starkenburg. Briljak third is 5.8. So he's about 2.1 seconds behind Van Starkenburg, so not really that Rob that is under threat any at the moment.
By the way, Martin Gosby just took 1.3 or 1.4 seconds out of Morgan Morand in the last lap. And Morand's going wide on the grass. Keeps it together though.
Yeah, I think he's going to get him pretty quickly, isn't he, the way things are going. And the problem for Moran is he's lapping slower than Kostadinov as well, I believe. So Kostadinov might catch him before the end too.
Definitely, and Bono now getting close to a back marker. Always a tense situation there, as we saw earlier in the pro race with Rens Klopp getting his race destroyed by a back marker. But,
yeah, Morgan Moran is about 1.5 seconds slower per lap than the 3 drivers behind him. So that is not going well at the moment. He could slide back down to 8th here. So we'll keep you updated on how that will affect the championship as these final laps go round. So as if Moran drops down positions, we'll tell you how that affects the championship.
Yeah, definitely not something he's aiming for, but for Martin it would be great, also from a morale point of view, that he will pass Moran. These are getting really close now, and he is definitely going to have the DRS available next way around. And yet again, 1.5 seconds out of the lap time of Moran.
Yeah, which would suggest that he will be past him this time, and it might be on the national straight, because Martin Gosby is all over the rear wing of Morgan Moran, and this is going to be, I suspect, a quite easy move for Gosby to make. He's certainly a lot faster.
No, the gap is too big.
The gap's too big down here, but closing up a lot, and Moran's just got no grip through the corners. Gosby's able to take, as you can see, Gosby's even trying to go wide to try and gain a better momentum out of the corner, because Moran's corner speed is not very good at the moment.
Smart thinking there from Gosby.
He closes back up down the straight as well.
I like to see how Martin Gosby is just edging out on the edge of Kops there, just onto the limit of the curbstones. If he goes just literally 10 centimeters more to the left, his grip will be gone, because he's on the grass. So definitely on the limit here, Martin Gosby.
Yeah, it certainly is, as Martin Gosby comes into the slipstream, but Morgan Moran defends well. As we said before, he may have some damage in that car, but certainly the brakes are still working perfectly well, because his braking has been fantastic at times when he's been defending from other drivers. So definitely there is still an awful lot of talent sat in that car, and he's not lost it by any means. He's just had one of those days which unfortunately all drivers have, no matter how good you are.
Indeed, and as we are now in lap 46, we got 6 laps to go, and 6 laps for Martin Gosby to get past, and for Morant it would be 6 laps to keep Martin Gosby behind. That's definitely the main battle here, and as Martin Gosby is getting closer to Morgan Morant, he's able to open the DRS flap and is close enough to make a move. But Morgan Morant isn't even going defensive. He was just saying to Martin Gosby there, I'm just gonna steer into this corner, and it wouldn't be a wise idea for you to make a dive because I'm committed.
Yeah, it's the brakes again, isn't it? From Morgan, he's very, very strong on the brakes, and once again there he lost virtually no time at all through the brakes. What this is meaning is that Jaakko Stadanov is getting quite close to these two. You can see him there in the background, and every lap we come round, that white dot is getting a little bit bigger.
Yeah, epic.
So we'll watch out for that, and Greco as well, not far behind after his earlier problems. So David Greco may well get himself into this battle as well. Morgan Moran is holding on nicely at the moment, and Peter Berliak has been catching Rob van Starkenburg a little bit over the last few laps as well. I think the telling thing with Moran and his pace is that he's not catching that back marker in front. You can see that there has been a car there. I think it's one of the Ash Racing cars for a few laps, and they just haven't been catching it.
Yeah, it's interesting development. Martin Gosby now is really trying to brake as late as possible and can almost touch the rear wing of Morant, and goes for a dive but misjudges the point and makes them spin. Martin Gosby there going for a dive, but rather a little bit optimistic, and Morgan Morant just closed the door. It was his right to do so as well.
Well, I'd like to say that the sun went to his head as we're in summer now with Martin Gosby, but I live in Britain and I know that there isn't any at the moment, so it's definitely not that.
You mostly have rain in Britain, right?
Certainly do, and proud of it. Yes, no, it's so I don't quite know what went on there, but nevertheless, I don't think either of them sustained damage from it, so I think we're okay. Just resume, take 2, boys, and try and behave yourselves.
Yeah, certainly, but there was certainly reason why Martin would go for that dive. It wasn't out of proportion, in my point of view. So.
Yeah, it certainly is. So, well, at least that's Moran knows that one's not his fault. That's for definite. There's no question about that one. So that's not a problem. So we'll look at that. I'm sure the stewards will look at that later on. Of course, the way it works is that they are penalised according to the time lost by another driver, which in that case wasn't much at all. So I don't think it will be too bad.
So we got 5 laps to go. We have our podium pretty much decided right here, and the only guys that are really fighting for the last positions on the top sheet, that is of ARM, Martin Gosby and Morgan Moran. And again, we come at that point where Martin just dove Gosby in. Ooh, he tried to do it again, but Morant now covering that. But Gosby
and look
is
where
having the DRS.
Greco are.
Yeah, they're eager to join too, but Martin Gosby now up for a move, maybe from the outside. He just gets caught out by the dirty air, and no way he can make a move stick right through there, except if he makes a mistake. Morgan Morant did. It's hoping for a mistake for Martin Gosby, because he has been behind Morgan for a lot of laps now and not able to get a move in.
Yeah, Morgan's got to be a little bit careful here, because I believe it or not, in the past I have won championships elsewhere. It's not for a while, unfortunately for me, but nevertheless, it's one of those things when you're trying to win a championship, Chris. What you don't want to do is battle too hard, because at the end of the day, if he falls behind Martin Gosby and say he gets 6th, that's far better than if he gets taken out and he doesn't get any points. So he's got to think about that as well a little bit. If Martin takes a big dive bomb down the inside.
Gosby and Jim. Yeah, but definitely what we saw 2 weeks ago with Martin Gosby and Jim Paris is in Canada, both driving without a front wing, crashing each other even further. That was really stupid to do, but of course these guys aren't teammates, and not even close to it, and they are just here to take as much points as they want, but Martin Gosby still has to make a move stick in order to get more points, and this is really the part of the track. Things like that.
Oh, no.
My God, Martin Gosby!
I'm sorry,
just
Martin,
steps-
but you're going to get a big slap round the wrist for that. You just piled into the back of Morgan Moran.
If
And,
he's sensible, he waits for Morant and he lets him retake the position.
I think he's going to do that, actually. It's a fair play to Martin here because he's slowing down a little bit on the National Straight. And I suspect that he may let Morgan back through. We'll see. And mind you, sped up again now.
Yeah, well, that was definitely something.
Well, there's no doubt about that one. I mean, we talk about are you enough down the inside and is it your fault or is it the other drivers? Martin wasn't down the inside at all. He just nerfed him in the back.
No, definitely. If he doesn't give the position back now, he will get added time to his race. I'm 100% sure of that. But weird situation there, and of course, Dejan Kostadinov and David Greco are the other laughing party who suddenly find themselves into 5th and 6th position now after a long fought struggle.
Yeah, definitely. So Martin Gosby, definitely his fault there. So there's a few incidents. I do feel a little bit sorry for Edouard Mayaki today because as Moran comes in the pits.
So with 3 laps to go, Morant's going into the pit. I don't really understand what the motivation behind the decision is.
Well, the only thing I can think is that he knows he's enough ahead of Keithley. He's just going to try and get fastest lap.
Yeah, that might be the case.
Because he has gone for the medium tyre, so Morgan's obviously decided, well, at least I can cheer myself up a bit and salvage something out of today. He's going to finish 8th, whatever. So he's decided, right, I'm going to pit, try and get fastest lap. Because again, and actually this shows that Morgan is still thinking, there are some drivers will not care about fastest lap, and I don't know what Bono's like, but some drivers, for example Sebastian Vettel in Formula 1, do like to get these fastest lap records, and psychologically it's just another little thing that they lose if they don't get that fastest lap. So maybe Morgan's playing the psychological game here a little. However, as our cameraman's just pointed out, if Morgan gets a time penalty, then that pit stop could be costly.
Yeah, definitely, but Martin Gosby will certainly get a time penalty, and it's only fair that in the situation we were just in, he gets a time penalty as severe that Morgan will get the place back. I mean, that are FSR regulations, I believe, with a certain amount of insecurity, I say that. But if Morgan indeed just made the pit stop, then that would mean that Martin Gosby's penalty time would even be further as well and higher.
Well, I'm just thinking about the in terms of the championship now, because the gap was 43 points, you remember? Well, Huis would now be just 22 points behind at the end of this race, the way things are as they currently stand. So the gap would be down to just 22 points less than a race victory, and that brings Bono Huis very firmly back into the game in terms of the championship challenge.
Yeah, definitely, and then we are at the point that one race can change everything, and in a way that's already happening now with Morgan collecting 4 points, Bono 25. So yeah, it's a 21 point gap decrease.
Tell you what, I think after this race Morgan will probably just want a very long sleep. It's been one of those days, isn't it? You just want to put this behind you and just get straight on to the next day. The only trouble is the next race is about 6. We've got a break. We don't have any races in July, so we're not back till August, I think. So well, it's not the greatest for Morgan. It means he's got to wait a while before he can get back on circuit and make up for this.
No, but it does mean he has some time to clear his mind and enjoy the French landscapes, you know, the mountains. So
yeah, I don't know where he lives actually. Morgan
somewhere in France.
I said that he won't find many mountains if he lives in Paris.
No, just one big tower.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly, Martin Gosby's been in the pits. Yeah, I'm not sure why that is.
Maybe he wants the fastest lap now.
That's very odd. I'm not quite sure why he's done. Well, I mean, that's going to give Morgan the place back as well, I think.
No, it's not.
Well, it's going to be tight because Gosby hasn't entered his pit stall yet. Has he? Oh, yes, he has, yeah. He's come back out, so yes, he will be in front of Moran. So, Martin Gosby has decided, I want fastest lap, actually. The thing I don't quite understand about that, though, is that Gosby was in front of Greco, I think. Was he not? Or was he behind Greco at that point? Because otherwise he lost a place. What was...
I don't believe so.
No, he was 7th, so that's he's obviously decided he wants the fastest lap. Found he couldn't catch Greco, who, by the way, is just 7/10 behind Kostadinov. Bono Huis has won the race anyway. Rob van Starkenburg 2nd, Peter Berliak 3rd. Will Greco pass Kostadinov before the end of the race? That's the question. I don't think he will. He's not close enough, I don't think. So Calamise is going to get 4th, although Greco's getting very close. He's giving it everything to catch Kostadinov on this last lap. Calamise has come across in 4th, and it is close between Greco and Kostadinov. If Greco gets a good run out of Stowe, he might have a chance. It's going to have to be a little bit of a dive bomb, though.
You're in the replay, mate. He's already finished.
Thank you for that.
No problem. So Kostadinov finished 5th and David Greco in 6th. Yeah, I think Greco was just 1 lap shy of taking him, but yeah, that's the 1 lap that's not there. It wasn't there at the first place, but nice top 5 finish for Kostadinov, and of course Morgan Morant will not be happy by his performance today. Whoever will be happy today is Bono Huis, because he won his first victory of the season. Rob van Starkenburg happy with a 2nd place, making donuts.
And I'd just like to, sorry Chris, I'd just like to give a shout out to Daniel Brewer, who just crosses the line to gain a World Championship point on debut. Thought that was worth saying. It was a great drive by him, so he gets a World Championship point, and well done to him and the Avid Chronic Racing team. I'm sure they'll be delighted about that.
Yeah, the only question on this race was on my mind. It was, why did Rob van Starkenburg let Bono pass that easy? Yeah.
Well,
I mean, Rob van Starkenburg hasn't won a race in FSR. I mean, you would expect that him driving in first position, he doesn't want to give it up. But
yeah, well, let's give you a rundown then of the finishing order. Bono Huis starts first. Finished first. Rob van Starkenburg finished 2nd. Peter Berliak rounds out the podium, so a great result for him. Calamise in 4th. You just have to think, yet again, what could he do if he qualified a little bit better? Dejan Kostadinov in 5th position. David Greco in 6th. Martin Gosby 7th, Morgan Moran 8th, and that's really not been a good afternoon for him at all. Jack Keithley 9th, Daniel Brewer with a debut point in 10th. Norbert Leitner 11th, had a great qualifying but missed out unfortunately on the points. Blair Disley 12th, Adrian Rodriguez 13th, Dino Paolini 14th, Adrian Falcon 15th, Matt Sentel 16th. They were the last of the finishers. Unfortunately, during the race, we lost Ville Lepela, Jim Parisis, Eros Masciuli, Fabrizio Gobbi, Zuhats Kaibo, Marcel van der Linden, Robert Rudholm and Carlos Martin, who retired earlier on with a disconnection. Unfortunately, that was the finishing order.
Definitely.
So it's a great result there for several drivers. And well, who stood out to you today then, Chris, in terms of the drives? There was a few drives. There was quite a lot of incidents. Anyone particular that stood out for you in terms of drive today?
Well, the driver that I was looking forward to was Carlos Martin, because he was starting at 3rd place, but he just had to disconnect. And but next to that, I think David Greco was nice to watch too, but he also had the problem. I think if he didn't have the pit stop and you would count 16 seconds of his time, he would drive near to Calamise or even in front. So, but the racer of the day, I would say Daniel Brewer for scoring 1 point in his first race.
Well, It's been an interesting race weekend. For me, I would have to say Peter Berliak has got to be my driver of the day, because not just because I know he only came third, but I think he was probably the only one of those top drivers that didn't have an incident. So that's why I'm going to go with it. And also, I probably would have gone for Van Starkenburg, but I'm not going to go for him because he let Huis through, which
I just
don't
talked
like.
to Rob, and I said, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "Because it's pointless to keep him behind me." And I think it's a little bit pointless to make a statement like that, because
he only finished 7.3 seconds behind him. So if he had kept him behind him a bit longer, surely he would have been in that battle more.
Definitely, and it's not my decision to make, but let's respect it, I guess.
Sorry, but that's just lying through your teeth. It was obviously a precision thing that they've. I mean, it not necessarily come from the team management, but something that they obviously have an agreement with. It definitely wasn't pointless. He only finished 7.3 seconds behind, and he definitely could have cost Huis some of that time, if not all of it, by keeping him behind him for a little bit longer. We know the dirty air at the moment is difficult in R-Factor 2, and certainly, I think Van Starkenburg could have been battling for the win if he'd have tried to keep Huis behind a little bit then.
Definitely, but that's not what happened, and Bono will be very delighted with his first win of the season, and probably more to come, because he will be motivated to come back, and he will see a perspective to his championship ambitions, which are staggeringly great. I mean, it has to be when you're a four-time FSR champion. But we're interesting to see when we're back in, I believe, 4 weeks' time, like you said earlier. And it's a new round, fresh chances, and a fresh start for everyone.
Yeah, it's more than 4 weeks, actually, Chris. I'm just checking it up now. It's the 17th of August is the next race in Hockenheim.
All right, 17th of August. That's nice.
We have our summer break now, so Chris can go off for his holidays and do a bit of partying. And
we party hard.
Yeah, I bet you do.
No, I said I don't party hard.
You don't?
No, I don't.
It's 7 weeks. I was right, 7 weeks away. So that's the next time that we will.
Wow.
So 7 weeks' time we will be in Hockenheim. I think, though, that there may be some. I know that at the start of the season, our president said that there may be some non-championship races. So keep an eye out for that on the forum.
We're just gonna drive a V6 Beetle like that. Yeah, you know? with a fixed setup.
Or
everyone the same setup, can only change the steering rock. We're all gonna drive.
I'm all for lawnmower racing personally.
No. It's a little bit too.
I think you'd look good on a lawnmower.
I don't even have a lawn. I live in an apartment. But who was your driver of today then?
Definitely Peter Berliak for me. He kept himself out of trouble. All right, he only finished third, but he didn't let anybody through, which was nice.
Did he finish third? Oh yeah.
Yes,
yeah, nice podium for him then.
Yes, it's been one of those days, isn't it? It's very difficult to keep up with everything that's gone on today. But yes, he did finish third, and he had a great race.
I was just confused with Greco, but that's just
So as I was saying as well, so keep your eye on the forums if you're listening into this, because if you don't drive in FSR, and maybe you're not sure whether you want to do a full-time drive, maybe you're not sure if you want to get involved full-time, then it might be a good chance for you if those non-championship races do take place. So please keep an eye on the forums, because it could be a good chance for drivers to have a test of FSR and what it's like in the race mode. All right, it's not for championship points, but it could be something that, you can have a try and then think, well, yeah, I'd like to have a go at this full time. And, maybe, I'm sure the team bosses, if we do have any non-championship races, will be paying attention because they never miss a trick. So if they see you, you might just end up in FSR either later this year or next season. So worth trying out. And I know myself, if there are any of those non-championship races, I'll be competing because it's never that hot in Britain in July anyway. So it doesn't really affect me. That's really why we're having this summer break for the drivers, just because of the heat and the fact that you sat next to a hot computer. And yes, it's hard work. I remember actually doing a race a couple of years ago, Chris, and I was doing, I think it was the Bathurst 1000, and I lost 1.5 stones during a sim race.
Wow.
Just because of the heat.
I don't know what a stone is in grams or kilograms, but
I'll convert it for you shortly.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, you still got the old-fashioned thingy going on. Everyone is driving to the right, which you British believe is to be, out of order, not the way it should be done. But yeah.
Yeah, it's about 10 kilograms.
Well, no, you didn't lose 10 kilograms during one sim race.
Maybe I just didn't eat during that day as well. I don't know, but don't forget the Bathurst 1000 is 6 hours long. So
yeah, but then losing no,
it was 30 degrees in my defence. I sweat. I wasn't nice to be around afterwards. That's for certain. So it was very smelly.
All right. Well, we have a nice break coming up to stay. Let's say to enjoy the glorious summer sun and to get back to racing with a refreshed mind. And that's in 7 or 8 weeks then.
Yeah, 7 weeks time in Germany.
In Deutschland, yeah. So Precision Motorsports home Grand Prix then.
Yep, and presumably they can do their own little Ferrari moment as they were back at Hockenheim.
So it would be nice if they take a home victory for the Precision team. Would be nice if we saw a French invasion once again, or
it certainly will, and it'd be interesting to see what happens. Bono Huis has got the momentum certainly now, so he will be thinking about that as he goes, having won here today at Silverstone. Make sure you join us in 7 weeks' time then for the German Grand Prix from Hockenheim. In the meantime, keep your eye on the forums. I'm sure there'll be plenty going on. But for this summer break, it's goodbye from Chris.
Certainly
and goodbye. And goodbye from me as well, and we will see you in 7 weeks.